Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship powered by NBW Mobility Plus here on RaceRoom. We are at the Nürburgring for round number 4 of the championship. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful Mr. Paul Smith. Paul, how are you doing? How excited are you for the race here at the Nürburgring?
I'm going to say we had a tremendous round last time out at Zandvoort. Really good racing. Nürburgring, well, this always produces tremendous action, and we've got a little bit of a different layout that you will see a little bit later on in this pre-show. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It should be a cracking evening of racing.
It should absolutely be, well, fantastic. But before we get into it, let's have a look at what happened with the top 5 moments from last time at Zandvoort.
Overall, so he was your pick behind Lerner, trying the outside line again, gives you the inside for the left, but then it puts you on the outside for the next 2 corners. Can he get the run out the corner? Yes he can. Lerner up a position into 7th place.
Just having to try and back out of that. There's the battle for P3 as well. Isaac Price trying the long way around on Wisniewski, using the fresher tyres to his advantage, getting the grip on the outside there. He might have been able to complete this move. There's little bits and taps here and there, but into Hugenholtz, it is Isaac Price on top, parks it in the apex as well, denying Wisniewski any opportunity to try and get back through.
Following the wheel track to the car in front, you become almost mesmerised and stuck to their speed, even though you may be the faster driver. And well, round the outside, Moritz trying to get the cut back. It's almost working. In fact, it will work going into turn 2.
Here we go, slots in ahead. The cutback move attempted by Brzezinski, though. He's going to have to try and swing it all the way around the outside of Hugenholtz, but can't get anything done out there whatsoever. A fantastic pass there by Moritz Lohner to try and get up into that reverse grid pole position plate. For another 11.5 minutes against this sort of onslaught as Isaac Price looks to the inside here through turn 10. That's a better move from Price. Look how squirrely off the corner he was, though, struggling to get the traction down even with the fresher tyres, trying to swing it around the outside of turn 11 now, and surely Price has got him now. We're going to go racing here at Zandvoort for the second time in the GT3 Championship. This time we are endurance racing, and here comes the moves down in towards turn number 1. Big challenge around the outside for Moritz Lohner to try and wrestle P1 away from Jacob Brzezinski, though. They get so close, they even trade paint on the way in towards the Hugenholtz bolt, and there is Brzezinski holding around the outside, but Moritz Lohner still giving it a good challenge on the inside, and he's clear. Well, that was a look back at what happened last time at Zandvoort, where Moritz Lohner, our multiple-time champion already, has continued to extend his advantage at the top of the GT3 points order, Paul. He seems to be the person to beat at the moment. He's on the top of his form, and if you believe his social media, he's seemingly optimistic here coming into the Nürburgring.
Yeah, he's said on his social media that he's feeling very confident about his chances here at the Nürburgring, and you can see how he's extended his championship lead. Had a tremendous round last time out, considering that he didn't have the best qualifying for the sprint race, but that endurance race, getting himself up at the front, and was able to then just look after himself, make sure he did everything that he needed to get the win. So yeah, Moritz looking very ominous for the rest of the championship.
Still not over for those drivers behind, though. Jacob Brzezinski was strong in that race in Zandvoort. He still has space through the rest of the season to catch back up to Moritz Lohner. Siggy has had some standout performances over the course of the season as well. But we are here at the Nürburgring now, and it's going to be a layout that maybe not too many people will be familiar with. Yes, we are on the GP layout, but we are on the shortened GP layout here today in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. And to take you through it, we have German commentator Patrick Simon to take you through the track guide. Take a look at this.
So welcome to the Nürburgring, which is the short version of the Grand Prix circuit, including this very tight Formula 1 chicane. So exiting here, and then we come back to start and finish. And so let's start to have a lap around the Nürburgring and show you where I should normally drive with the car. In real life, it's a bit different in Esports, but I try my best. Hard braking at the end of start and finish. Second gear. Look for this very tight right-hander. There's already a warning for track limits. I just ignore it and continue into the AMG arena. Quite hard for this very long left-hander, which seems to never end. Downhill braking into the next left-hander before we exit AMG arena with a good transition, good acceleration out of the AstroTurf. And then we have the shortcut. Apex in the beginning, just go wide and then go to the apex at the exit. V-style for the shortcut, and then very fast left-hander, little curb on the in and very much curb on the outside, maybe a bit too much. But it's a nice following up right-hander before we go down Hatzenbach Bogen. And then one of the good opportunities for an overtaking maneuver, hard braking into the Formula 1 chicane, fifth gear flat out, and then hard braking. Ooh. Bit curb on the inside, no curb on the outside. I have better traction, but this is always a good spot follow up by some overtaking. If you struggle in the chicane, here's the chance for the competitors to get you. At least we are back at start finish, 29. Something like 30, a bit off speed, but yeah, at least you know where to drive now, and hope the pros can speed up a bit more. So that's it, one lap around the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke. Quite intense, and I'm really looking forward to some really fantastic racing. It's up to the pros now, so have fun.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Simon. That was a little look at what the drivers have to contend with here today at the Nürburgring. Like I said, a little bit different from if you're just used to racing the full GP circuit. We cut out the vast majority of the middle portion of the circuit, so no Dunlop curve, no Michael Schumacher S. You just get the arena section over and done with, and then you cut immediately to what would usually be the final sector of the lap.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a style of layout that's used for the what was the VLN Championship, of course, as the drivers are out there and qualifying already. But it's going to be that run down to the NGK chicane, the tight Grand Prix style chicane that they're going to be using. That's going to be one of the key overtaking opportunities down into the arena as well. Turns 1 through to 4. You can make so many moves through there. It's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. Not got that long to get qualifying times in, so you can see them all trying to get themselves a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Positioning pretty important here. It is, due to the shortened layout, there's not going to be as much space out there as there would be otherwise if we were using the full Grand Prix track. As you can see, basically cars coming to what is essentially a stop, coming without heading their way through the final couple of corners there, just to make sure they have the correct spacing to be able to go on the first flying lap here that they're starting right now. So 10 minutes of qualifying, well, already 2 minutes have elapsed before we even get ourselves the first flying lap started. But as is the case always, you want that baseline to start off with. So for those drivers that usually maybe aren't too handy in qualifying, this is probably one of the most crucial phases of the session, just to make sure that you can at least get a spot on the grid, let alone a good one.
And the key with a short qualifying session like this is that you need to make every lap count. If you make a mistake on your first lap, it piles so much more pressure onto you as a driver then for the rest of qualifying. So these drivers, they're under intense pressure to deliver this first lap time, to at least get a banker lap in, so that then when it comes to their second attempt, they can really push the levels of adhesion and track limits to be able to see how they get on. But Florian Hasse for Door Esports working his way up to the NGK chicane right now in that Audi, and certainly getting a nice slipstream from his teammate Moritz Lohner in front. But slipstream won't be key around here. It's a rather technical track as this one.
So you would have thought at least it would reward driver skill rather than being in the right place at the right time. Of course, there's always an element of that in racing, as we see Florian Hasse set himself his provisional qualifying time for the moment. Currently, provisional pole position goes to Marco Pajic. He's taken the tow back to pit lane just so he can get another out lap in and another flying lap. There is Isaac Price, though. He sort of stunned everyone in the previous race by the alternate strategy and his moves on the fresher tyres at a track that it is still very tough to overtake, even if you do have an advantage on with the rubber. Maybe he'll have no such issues here at the Nürburgring, though, because it is a little bit easier to try and get past.
It is, but with it being the shorter layout, of course, it's quite, the field is going to be quite compact, really, out there on track. And in that feature race, when it all spreads out, there's not really that empty space that you can fall into compared to some of the longer tracks that we run at. But Isaac, he's been doing well to say, he's a privateer. He's been without a team for a little while now, and he's been looking at things and saying, well, do I really need a team if I'm still performing really well out there? So hats off for him to be able to make this work and to be so competitive still as he moves up to 7th.
Yeah, 7th in qualifying for the moment. Here's Kevin Siggy, yet to set himself a time. Going through sector 1 and 2 as far as the personal bests are concerned, but can he put the lap together without any incidents? Coming out of the final corner, 24th with no time set, and now he does set a time, gets himself promoted up into the 6th spot there. So decent stuff there from Kevin Siggy, mixing in with the Bentleys and the Porsches that we have at the very front of the field. It seems to be a very Bentley and Porsche-centric, position at the very top of those orders, top of the order right now. It seems like those two manufacturers really working well here at this track in particular.
Yeah, certainly seem to be feeling very comfortable. That Porsche through the corners maybe a little bit more manoeuvrable than the Bentley, but that Bentley is such a strong vehicle in this championship. We've seen it time and again. It's always there or thereabouts. The Audis, they've been a little bit off the pace, although I say that Thibaut Casamont is in 5th place and Kevin Siggy 7th. So they're getting in there. The Audi's usually good on rotation as well. So through the more technical sections, they might be feeling a little bit more confident.
So we'll have to see. We do have, of course, Thibaut Casamont, who's currently up in P5 in an Audi. We also got, like I said, Siggy up into P7 at the moment. There's Jack Keithley out there continuing to run his laps. A little bit of information, though. We currently have, from the past 3 races, 3 different pole position sitters for the sprint race. There's Moritz Lohner coming through with a blistering lap time, just leapfrogging over Florian Hasse's time. But going back to my point, we've had 3 different pole sitters in the last 3 rounds. So Moritz Lohner was pole in Oschersleben, Pajic was pole in Red Bull Ring, Yarshall was pole in Zandvoort. Well, currently, Moritz Lohner will be the first repeat pole position sitter if he's able to convert this into the race.
I think the series administrators would actually like if we got a little bit of difference for the pole position award. But definitely, Pajic having to work his way through a lot of traffic coming out of pit road. Time is running out for those drivers to be able to get out, do their outlap, and then finish their qualifying here. But the Mahal Racing Team driver is currently not up. It's not a good lap time so far in sector 1. Have to see how he gets on in sector 2 as to whether he can pull back some of that time, but it's not the best of lap times so far.
Not looking that likely at the moment. I think the traffic through sector 1 has really put one of the nails in the coffin of this particular lap time. He's going to get a little bit of the slipstream from the Bentley up ahead of him on the way through the Hudson back and now up in towards the NGK chicane. And that's not a great sector 2 time either. So this is looking a little bit rough and ready for Marco Pajic, as he will decide to dive down on towards pit lane. And well, whether or not he'll be able to get another lap time in still hangs in the balance. Meanwhile, there is Florian Hasse in the Audi. He's not on a lap, so he's coming onto a lap right now. He will be able to get this in before the session is done. He has a Porsche ahead of him, a whole group of cars behind him as well. One big slipstream train on the way down in towards turn number 1 in the dying moments of this session. Lona, the mark to beat. But Hasse is there and thereabouts, so is Page, so is Keithley, about a tenth of a second back.
You can see how it's a Door Esports train right here, the front 4 cars of that group, all in the same livery there. And the Williams Esports car tagging onto the back of them as well. So you can see how they're all trying to use that slipstream. There are advantages, of course, it'll make you a little bit quicker, but there are disadvantages, because if the car in front of you makes a mistake, that affects your lap as well if you're too close. And well, Hasse not improving on his first sector, not even a personal best. So this track, it's not really giving up much time towards the end of this session. Look at that, Moritz Lerner is just going to let Hasse pass. He was obviously ahead of the slipstream train as, well, not an improvement still in Sector 2, in fact losing more time.
Yeah, so this isn't looking like a lap that will put Florian Hasse onto pole position, so we might see our first repeat pole position sitter here this season in the form of Moritz Lohner. He was pole in round number 1. It was a best of anyone Sector 3 for Florian Hasse, but that simply is not good enough. Moritz Lohner, pole position for the sprint race here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship powered by MBW Mobility Plus. That will put him in the best seat in the house with regards to the Pirelli Pole Position Award at the end of the season. Florian Hasse makes it a Door Esports 1-2 in qualifying, with Marco Pajic in 3rd and Jack Keithley in 4th, Isaac Rice 5th, and then Tim Yarshall in 6th. And you can see the order as it cycles down through on your screen right now. Just trying to spot if anyone's incredibly out of position here at the moment. I would have to say maybe Erhan Yayovski a little bit deeper in the field. P29, I don't think he got himself a time set. Same with Nestor Garcia and Wisniewski. So a couple of big names at the very back of the starting grid here today. They'll have to try and work their way through.
Certainly will, but if ever you want to be, if ever you're going to have issues and not set a qualifying time, well, this is the venue that you're going to do it at, because this gives you the best opportunities to be able to overtake of this championship, I do feel. It was either this or Hockenheim, of course, but yeah, these drivers, they know that they're up against it, starting at the rear, but they have got the opportunities. As I said at the start of the broadcast, through this arena section is a great place to make up a ton of positions, particularly at the start as well. If you run an alternate line, if everybody's diving for the inside line, they can actually slow each other up. You can take that wider line, carry the speed through the corner and take 2-3 positions, and then down into the chicane as well. That's going to be a key overtaking opportunity as well. It's not the easiest because it is such a tight chicane.
Yeah, it is. You would struggle to try and get cars too wide through there. It happens more often than you think, though, as drivers get more and more desperate with the battles for position. It's such a tempting move down the inside at the chicane, but it's one that sometimes results in tears. So watch out for that one during the race, and we can talk about turn number 1 all day long here at the Nürburgring as well. So look for big old dives down the inside there. But we've got a bit of time before we can get ourselves our grid set for the sprint race, and then we'll have the formation and we'll go green flag racing here in the GT Masters Esports Championship at the Nürburgring. But well, Moritz Lohner said he was confident on Twitter coming into this one, and what a display of confidence it was in qualifying.
Yeah, pulled out the lap when he needed to, and was under pressure. His second qualifying lap was his quickest one. He did try again in the third one, but bailed out of it, so obviously wasn't making up time. I just feel towards the end of that qualifying, the lap time was dropping away from the drivers out there, so maybe the ideal time was that middle run to be able to get the best qualifying time out there. And yeah, Moritz certainly feeling confident. But it is a very tight field here. The level of competition is extremely high, so that the gaps between drivers is the hundredths of a second. It's not 2-3 tenths of a second. It's hundredths of a second. So don't count out anybody else for the race. And I want to say, particularly as well, Isaac Price. We did see him during that qualifying session. 5th place on the grid. Very good starting position, considering, as we said earlier, he's a privateer. He's doing it on his own. Well, I'm sure he's got some help, but he's not got a bunch of teammates to back him up in a race.
Exactly, and sometimes that can be a whole bunch of help, but especially if you're someone like Door Esports, for example, who have multiple frontrunners in this series that can really help each other out at the very front of the field. You've got a handful of Williams Esports cars involved in this one as well. So your life's just that little bit easier. Of course, it's not a team's championship, Paul, and I know, like with every single driver series that we commentate on, you like to point that out. But it is still an undisputed benefit to have those sorts of quote-unquote friends around you.
Yeah, because you know they're not going to try something desperate with you. You know that you're going to get a level of, well, if they are going to make a move, they're not going to do something silly. They're going to play the percentages and keep out of trouble, because the last thing that you ever want to do in the world of motorsport is to take your teammate out. And certainly you've seen that time and again in the past. And now this is one man who I really like a lot. Vince Banchi does a fantastic job, gets his shoulders out, he's not afraid of defending a position, and I've really been impressed by him this season so far with some of his defensive displays, as well as attacking displays, it must be said.
Yeah, he's been one of the standout performers, I get the feeling, if not, always getting up there and getting the good results, always giving us a lot of entertainment wherever he is out there on circuit. Here's Ilhan Yayovsky, who's going to have to start near enough the back of the grid due to not setting himself a time in qualifying. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle for that RAG Esports Mercedes to be able to get anything done here through the sprint race and the feature. But, it's like I said, if you were going to start at the back of the grid at one track over the course of the season, this is probably going to be relatively near at the top of your list.
Well, I mean, so just to point out to everybody, by the way, that it was Wisniewski, Garcia, and Yayovsky who all had their 3rd strike. That's why they couldn't set a qualifying time. So that's why they're all starting at the back of the grid. And it's going to be interesting to see those 3 working their way through. I mean, Nikodem Wisniewski is usually up there at the front of your grid. So he's somebody I would expect will be on an absolute charge. He'll be sending it into pretty much every corner that he can to try and make those positions up. But you've got to be careful. Like I say, that was those drivers, their 3rd strike of the season so far. So you've got to be careful for the rest of the season now. You can't get yourself into any more trouble because the stewards, they don't take incidents kindly if you keep on getting involved in them.
Yeah, they don't, do they? So it's always a concern that you have to have in the back of your mind. You can't make yourself out to be a target for the stewards, so to speak. But less than a minute now left in this warm-up session. Time for the drivers to start thinking about that race start. Of course, rolling start here in this series, manual rolling start as well, so we'll get an extra 2 minutes added to the race time as a result of that one. So yeah, I think most drivers are very, very used to how that's working now. Of course, we have seen some little issues here or there on the starts. We had a jump start investigation, I believe it might have been for Yarshel in the race at the Red Bull Ring. There is a line that you can't cross when it comes to those starts, but I think here at the Nürburgring, you're wanting to gain every single advantage possible because that turn 1 is such an obvious overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. For anybody who hasn't watched this championship, by the way, with it being a manual rolling start, that means that the drivers will be in single file all the way through to just on the exit of this chicane. So on the exit of the chicane, they'll then go 2 wide through there, and that's when they'll buddy up. So the rest of the lap they'll be single file here. It's a great. The drivers have been doing it absolutely fantastically so far this season. It must be commended for their administration of this manual rolling start. And well, we've had plenty of practice of it by now, Connery, so they should be good at it now.
Yeah, they should be. We've had a good couple of rounds, good couple of races under our belt now, so there should be absolutely no concerns whatsoever. So the process is that these drivers will be getting themselves single file as they're coming off the starting grid here. They will get the green signal, but they can't race due to that. They do have to just pace themselves around, and then once they get through in towards the final sector, they will get double file, and then they will wait for the green signal from race control. So Moritz Lohner pole position, Florian Hasse second, Pejich third, Gt3 in fourth. There are the green lights from the starting gantry, which means that they can form up in this single file line. But the Porsche leads the way down in towards turn number 1 with the Audi in tow, and a whole bunch of Bentleys behind the leading 2 Porsches and the Audi as well. So let's see how much progress they can make through the field. We also, you noticed, Paul, before the start of the broadcast here, we do have a handful of Corvettes this time around. There's one of them, Konrad Zerovic there, the Polish driver, and we also have the Austrian of Daniel Berker in the second Corvette today.
I'm liking the Traction livery as well, the Traction GG livery, so good to see that out there. But yeah, it's great to see a couple of Corvettes out there. A bit of a mix-up in terms of the cars that are taking part in this, so it's really good to see that. Of course, balance of performance is something that we're keen to see in this one. Nürburgring, the Audis, once again a 5 kilogram weight penalty with a 1% horsepower reduction. The Corvette has a 5 kilogram weight penalty and 2% horsepower reduction. The Mercedes a 5 kilogram weight penalty and 1% horsepower reduction. So those are the balance of performances out there, trying to make it as even a championship as possible.
So they'll try and attempt to form up 2x2 coming out of the final chicane here. It's not a lot of space to be able to do so, but the front couple have already gotten themselves in order. So this round of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship here at the Nürburgring, round number 4, sprint race about to get itself underway. Moritz Lohner on pole position, waiting for the starting signal from race control, and then it'll be an almighty charge on the way down in towards turn number 1.
I don't think they're getting the call. Oh, now they are.
Oh, that's a very, very late call indeed, as you see everyone fanning out, coming on the way down in towards turn number 1. Lohner leads in the Porsche, but it's a big battle for P2 behind between Pejich and Hasse. Marla Racing Team versus Door Esports as they head their way through the arena section for the first time. Hasse on the inside, still slightly ahead. There's an instant at the very back of the field. Hasse has P2, and now Keithley's looking to squeak through into third with, squeezing Pejich on the inside of the apex there. He's not going to be happy about that, and now Pejich has to defend from Price.
Yeah, Price wants a piece of the action as well from 5th on the grid. Is he going to go around the outside of the hairpin? Oh, he could do. I don't think he'll quite have the run, or will he? He's still got a nose there on the inside, but Pejich just ahead. So not the best of starts for Pejich to lose 1 place, but so far, pretty much a clean start. Okay, we did have a little instant towards the back. I think it was Rachel and Nunninghoff who were the 2 drivers involved in that, but the rest of them out there. But you were quite right though. It was a very, very late call for the green flag.
Yeah, they almost got themselves past the start line on the very front of the starting grid there. So that was a very late call indeed. But you just have to be aware of such things as a driver. You can't hit the noisy pedal until race control says you can. And now they head their way across the line to complete the first lap here. 20 minutes of racing has started. Of course, no scheduled pit stops here in the sprint race. It is a flat-out go all the way until the end. And, well, the front couple of cars have really sorted themselves out here, but look at the mess in the back there. Multiple instances of 2x2. This is just outside the top 10.
Yeah, with Wisniewski already moving up to 19th in all of this. He's on a charge. I said he was going to be trying to send it pretty much everywhere he could. The rest of them, Garcia down in 26, Yayovsky 22nd. So those that started at the back are working their way forward. And Wisniewski right now doing a fantastic job for that Williams Esports car.
Yeah, here's the onboard with Kevin Siggy, who actually lost a couple positions on the start here. Got a little bit of a twitch there coming through the corner as well. So that Audi not seeming like it's horribly settled at the moment. So hopefully he's able to get that all gathered up and recovered as this race goes on. Of course, a little bit of battling further back in the pack there for the minor couple of positions. But Brzezinski locking onto the back of Ben Spunky here for that 9th spot.
Brzezinski's in that magic position, don't forget. He's in the reverse grid pole position, but that's not where he wants to be. He wants to move forward in all of this. He wants to try and get as many points as possible as he can. And Banky wants to hang on to that position, that 9th place. To the outside, he can make that work, but he's getting squeezed off there by Banky. It was a bit rude, but just about legal.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. You got Siggy on the back of this one in the Team Redline, Audi as well, looking to stick his nose in, perhaps where it shouldn't belong as far as Jacob Brzezinski is concerned. So decent amount of scrapping here for the positions just inside of that top 10. Bunky trying to defend from that Williams Esports Bentley versus Bentley in terms of this particular battle, of course. The front of the field have been relatively quiet. They've kind of strung themselves out just a couple of tenths of a second away from each other, but it doesn't look like any of them are going to be making any sorts of rash moves anytime soon, so they're settling down for the early portions of this race. But the mid-pack and back, anything but.
Yeah, it's great to see, isn't it, how aggressive the drivers are being, how forceful they're going. Oh, a little mistake for an Audi back there, and that's one of the red line cars. Yeah, Rudinger dropping back to Reichfeld, moving up a position in the red line BMW. Yeah, it just shows if you hit those curbs wrong around that chicane, it can unsettle the car. Speaking of unsettling, Florian Hasse having to go a bit defensive here.
Oh, yeah. Car's looking sketchy on the exit of turn 1 as well. Heathley looking to be on a charge. In that Bentley, we have 3 different manufacturers on the podium right now, with the Porsche, the Audi, and the Bentley residing in those spots. But can Keithley just get that 1 spot higher? The Audi seemingly dropping off the back of the Porsche at this stage here, Paul. We did notice that the majority of the Audis not quite able to keep up with the Bentleys and the Porsches, apart from Florian Hasse, who put in a fantastic lap in qualifying, but now maybe he's just a little bit out of position with regards to race pace. We'll have to see how this develops over the course of the next couple of laps to see if Lona can pull any more time out of him.
Well, Moritz right now just wants to try and run away at the front here. He wants to try and gap out to make his life a bit easier. So he'll use up the tyres a bit more at the start of this first half of the race, and then look to try and manage things after that point as well. But Hasse, yeah, just seems to be a little bit out of sorts a little bit, although he seems to have settled down now on this lap. Meanwhile, Pajic, he is coming up behind. He's got a nice orderly queue at the moment in this field. Everybody's behaving. The top 6 all together, and then a little back.
Oh no! I said Price. Price is spun on the exit of turn 1. Lazy spin as well. I didn't see anyone get into the back of him, but Isaac Price, that's a bit embarrassing. In a good position for the entirety of the first couple of laps of this race. Now he's all the way down in 12th.
That's an absolute nightmare for Isaac as well. He was looking in a good position in 5th and looking good to get some solid points in the top 10. Now he's got to try and fight back. He's got to get himself into that top 10 to give himself the best opportunity in the endurance race, of course. basically he wants 10th place out of all of this to give himself pole position at the very least, but he'll be kicking himself over that mistake. It was just carrying too much speed into turn 1.
Yeah, I think it was just a simple case of that, easily done, but not something that you want to have happen during the race, that's for sure. Thankfully, no one else behind got caught up in that one. He was able to rejoin the track in a relatively safe fashion as well. Meanwhile, battle further back for 17th, 18th, 19th. Högfeldt trying to hold on to position over Wisniewski. He really didn't want to give away the inside there, did Högfeldt, but Wisniewski cracked open the door anyway, as they will go door to door on the way down in towards turn number 1. A little bit of defending to the pit wall further back as well. So a lot of action happening here at the very back of the back of the grid. As Wisniewski sticking it down the inside of turn 1, he's been able to get clear. Högfeldt can stick it down in the inside of turn 2 instead. No, it's a great back and forth battle between these two drivers, as Wisniewski continuing to try and work his way back through the field after that qualifying ban. Still hangs it around the outside now in towards turn number 4. He should have the speed off the corner now. Well, Högfeldt pushed it a little bit wide. He'd be complaining about that. Oh, there's a bit of a hip check there from Peter Nagy.
Yeah, Nagy wanted to get involved in this, trying to follow Wisniewski through. The Mercedes getting a bit bullied there, and I'm sure that they'll, of course we do have live race stewards, so they may have just a little courtesy glance at that one. But Wisniewski up into 17th place now. They've lost a ton of time to the cars in front, but that's crucial. He needs to keep on moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, here comes the BMW of Pilska. On the inside, he's now the outside. Can you get the cut back? Well, behind them, as well as Yayovsky as well. Enough one of those drivers trying to work the way through. But of course, the further you get through the field, the harder it gets to actually gain those positions. So it's going to get more and more difficult for those drivers as they progress through the field.
Doesn't mean it's impossible though. Here comes Pilska. Little bit of games on the brakes into turn 1, but guess who's not playing any games? That's Johan Yayovsky, just committing to the outside of turn number 1. He saw what was going on ahead of him, thought, well, I can take these guys by surprise and head my way around the outside of turn 1. He still has to complete it on the inside of turn 2 and 3 though. Pilska falls in behind, and good opportunistic driving from the Mercedes driver.
Oh, that was wonderful. Using that faster line around the outside. You can afford to carry the speed around there because it is quite a wide corner, is that turn 1 hairpin. So really good use of the track limits. Okay, he went a little bit beyond the track limits on corner exit, but certainly earned the right to be there alongside.
Yeah, it certainly did. It's just, I think the two drivers ahead were all preoccupied with each other and just completely weren't expecting Yayovsky just to swing it around the outside there. It was a little bit of a lapse of concentration from those drivers ahead that's caused that entire situation. But we're inside the final 10 minutes of the sprint race here at the Nürburgring for round number 4 of the championship. As we have a look towards the top 10 here, as I'm seeing Jacob Brzezinski getting very close to Ben Spanky, and Alexander Dornaden on the front end of this can also be counted in this battle as well. We've seen no active fighting for these top couple positions, but I have to wonder in the last couple of laps here whether or not we'll get to see that. We will probably see it for this P10 though, because Kazubon's not too far behind Ziggy.
Yeah, he's looking menacing as Casabon, doing a good job so far to be in that 11th place. Of course, benefiting from Isaac Price falling down to 12. Isaac hasn't really been able to catch up to the back of this queue of cars, but if they start fighting, he'll be right there with them. But it is worth pointing out as well, Moritz Lerner hasn't really been pulling away that much from his teammate Florian Hasse. I mean, as I say that, he's actually just pulled out a ton of space on the timing tower that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. So, you know, he's not really been able to just walk away with it like he would have liked to have done.
Yeah, this still isn't a very comfortable gap for Lerner. It's one that he can work with, though, because he's not immediately under threat, and that's the best positions, one of the best positions to be in as a driver, is that you can focus on your own lines and your own driving and not have to worry about the driver behind you trying to look down the inside at every single corner. So at least Moritz Lohner has that little bit of comfort to work with here at the very front of the field. But P2 and back, still relatively close between Hasse, Keithley and Pajic here. Of course, we've seen no looks, we've seen no little side-by-side actions just yet here, but still plenty of time for that to happen in the final couple of laps of this event. And of course, like I said, we have to pay attention to that battle for the reverse grid pole position as well, P10, which can go, well, any of these drivers' ways at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Kazubon just completely drives the wheels off of that Audi trying to catch up and get into that position, because that would be a massive result for him.
Certainly would. He's trying his best, but the problem is that he gets gets close enough to Kevin Seege, but then just can't really take advantage of it. Speaking of trying to take advantage, Jack Keithley, that Bentley looks so much more secure over the curbs of the NGK chicane, whereas the Audi was absolutely launched over the curbs. And Keithley, Williams Esports, impatiently, Haas is feeling the need to go defensive here, so he's feeling under pressure, and Pajic behind must be rubbing his hands with delight.
Yeah, he must be looking at this saying, okay, go on, guys, go on, just fight a little bit harder, let me drag myself into this as well, and well, if you two take each other out, I'm going to be here to pick up the pieces and grab myself a second step on the podium. But let's hope that everything ends amicably between these drivers instead of in bits of contact here and there. But let's have a look then. Keithley, you know, is a very capable driver here, especially in race room, but of course has made appearances elsewhere in sim racing as well. He's a very versatile driver. He knows these situations like the back of his hand, so hopefully he knows how to execute as well over the German of Florian Hasse. As Hasse's, well, he has no shortage of experience either here in race room, so two very experienced drivers that have battled each other for years. On the way up in towards the NGK chicane, there was a slight little look there from the Bentley, but of course you don't want to commit to that move into the chicane unless you really, really have to.
Yeah, it is an overtaking opportunity, but it is so difficult to actually make that move stick. So definitely, you play the percentages and you go for the move down into turn number one. You've got a great slipstream down into turn one and looking to try and do the dummy. No, he's not going to get fooled by that, Jack. Looking to get the cut back on the inside. Pajic is loitering with intent. See the Porsche in your rear view mirror. And well, down into turn three. Still, getting almost bumping into the back end of Hasse. So this is basically the closest battle, because Moritz Lohner, with these two battling now, he's saying, all right, thanks boys, I'll take it from here.
Yeah, I'm just going to check out now. Thank you very much for battling. It's going to be another race win for me. That's what Moritz Lohner is thinking, and a whole bunch of points that comes with that as well. But for Hasse, he's trying to desperately hold on to P2 at the moment. Has been doing a very good job in doing so. And in fact, over the last sector, has pulled out a bit of a gap over that Bentley behind him. So that's a little positive that Hasse can take away, but there's still a handful of laps left in this one, still ample opportunity for that Bentley to get itself ahead. And on the way up into the NGK chicane, that seems to be where the Bentley's just carried a little bit too much speed over the Audi, and now into this final corner. It's going to be Keithley that has all the slipstream. Not as close as he has been on previous laps, but you can see Hasse still feeling the need to go all the way to the pit wall.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't be doing that. He's trying to break the slipstream, but he doesn't need to that time, really, because Keithley just wasn't close enough to be a threat there. You can sometimes fall into the trap of defending thin air, and it can actually slow yourself down and bring you towards that car that's behind you. I've seen it a few times in plenty of races, and those drivers just get a little bit overeager, feel the need to have to defend an inside line when the other car behind is just not going to make a move. So yeah, Hasse can't fall into that trap right now of just chasing ghosts of cars that he thinks are going to make a move when they're not.
And all that is saying to Keithley as well is that Hasse is feeling the pressure that that Jack Keithley's applying, because sometimes you don't always get that cue as the driver behind. You don't know if you're doing a good job at scaring the driver up ahead, but if you're seeing the driver go and defend lines that you're not even going for, that's when you know that you're inside their head. And that's when you feel that you can have the psychological advantage in these particular battles. It's sometimes a big mental game here racing, of course, in the real world and in sim racing, as that Bentley does get a pretty good exit coming out of the final corner. Going to have the whole bunch of the slipstream into turn 1. This might be one of the better opportunities Jack Keithley has to try and get by. Is he going to commit to the outside this time? No, he's going to try and switch back to the inside. Hasse has to be careful about the whole moving in the braking zone situation here.
I think he'll have just got away with that enough, though. I think he did hold his line to a degree, and you know, Jack Keithley was a little bit late trying that cut back to the inside line. So Keithley, he's putting the pressure on. He realises that time is running out here, and he realises that he's got an angry Pajic behind to try and make his way back past him, because Pajic, of course, don't forget, was rather bullied out the way by Keithley.
Yeah, he was. So there's certainly going to be no love lost between those two drivers. If they get themselves into a bit of a door-to-door battle, it might become literally door-to-door if they get into that position. But less than 2 minutes to go now. We are doing, what we're doing in terms of lap times, 1:25s here at the moment. So this won't be the final lap. We'll get at least 2 more to go as they head their way across the line in a couple of moments' time. But, oh, it's going to be pretty close. There's 1:27 as Moritz Lohner is just about coming across the grid spots.
But the timing line is further back towards the last corner. So it's all about where they cross the timing line, really. We'll have to be patient and wait to see if it is the end of this lap or another one.
Yeah, we will just have to see. It's always interesting when we get these little doubts in our minds. As Jack Keithley, well, he's got to treat this as if it is the final lap now, because he can't be relying on Lohner going either a little bit faster, a little bit slower to try and manipulate the time left in the race. Hasse would be hoping his teammate of Tour Esports actually does end this race right here and now, so he doesn't have to defend for another lap. So maybe that's a little bit of a conversation those guys are having at the moment, as Lohner has a 3-second gap over this battle at the moment. 30 seconds left remaining on the clock. Might be the last couple of opportunities for Keithley, might not be. It depends on where Hasse is when that clock expires. 20 seconds on the way now up the hill towards the NGK chicane. Jack Keithley is going to be looking for the move into the chicane. Can't quite find anything over the Audi. Does the race end here, however, or does it go one more? Keithley, trying to find a way past Hasse. Still can't find a way past Hasse. He'll bump him through the final corner. Is the race done? Do we go more? One more? Yes, the race is done. And it's a battle to the line between Keithley and, Pajic now. Keithley up into P2. What happened to Hasse?
I think Hasse has had a problem at the end there, and he's dropped down the order down to 5th place according to our timing screen at the end there. We'll wait final confirmation of that. But I mean, Keithley was bumping him through that final corner. I wonder if potentially he was very short on fuel and it was just spluttering a little bit.
Yeah, I'll have to wonder. Our one and only TV camera set didn't really have the best position to be able to see exactly what happened there, but there's the order. Of course, unofficial pending stewards review. Moritz Lohner wins the sprint race with Jack Keithley in 2nd, Marco Pajic in 3rd, picking up a surprise 3rd place after problems for Hasse. My words, it's all dramatic here at the very end of the sprint race. Of course, reverse grip pole position, by the way, goes the way of Kevin Siggy from Team Red Line.
Yeah, that's big for Kevin. That's an ideal starting place for him. Isaac Price will be kicking himself for that mistake he made in turn 1, which dropped him down the order. With Newski, the best of those that started at the back of the grid, down in, he got up to 17th place, should I say. So he will be starting from there in the endurance race that we'll have a little bit later. But with Newski doing a good job working his way through the field in the first lap or two, but after that he really struggled to make any more positions forward, only a couple of positions after lap 2.
Yeah, it seemed that he stalled out just that little bit here. We will have to try and have a look and see what happened there to Florian Hasse, because all of a sudden he was in 3rd place, or rather 2nd place, and then just wasn't. So we'll have to see what exactly happened there, but that's going to be heartbreak if it is fuel issues, for example, because they want to get us closer to the edge here. But we, like you quite rightfully pointed out, though, we did see bits of contact there through the final corners there. I wonder if Keith Lee just simply forced him wide and he was able to nip through along with a couple of other cars.
I feel that I from what we saw of the car, I feel more confident it was maybe a fuel issue, because he did pull over to the right-hand side of the start and finish straight. I thought he was just trying to get away with any sort of slipstream or anything towards the end, but yeah, maybe just trying to play it safe and keep out the way of people, but yet make it to that finish line. So yeah, we'll have to wait and hear what happened there. But certainly, it was an intriguing race throughout that one. Had a little bit of a quiet spell with everybody getting into a queue, but then it soon picked up into that final 7 minutes.
It really did, and it could have gone either way, that battle for P2. I'll tell you now, even the stewards are confused about what happened there at the very end, because our message from Thomas was Hasse P5, question mark, question mark, question mark. So it's, yeah, so it's a little bit of a confusing situation at the very end there. We will get news to you if we receive it over the course of the, well, we're now into the GT4 race, aren't we? The support series here for the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship, the GT4 event where pretty much anyone can qualify. So if you do well in the time attacks, in the fastest lap competition in the week leading up to this event, well, you can qualify yourself onto the starting grid for the GT4 event. And here are the standings for the GT4 event so far, and it has been one man as the standout performer here, Paul. All things considered, is Emre Cihan, 120 points in the standings at the moment. Considerable margin ahead of Adrian Pinces and Ottaviani. Cihan has been incredible so far this GT4 season.
Yeah, he's been absolutely magnificent, and definitely he's certainly been putting on an absolute clinic in that championship, and definitely he's been doing a great job. But we saw last time out at Zandvoort that Pinces and also Ottaviani, they both put a really big effort in and were able to push Cihan all the way. And Connery, I'm actually noticing here we've got somebody waiting for an interview from race 1 of the GT3s.
We do. We weren't really expecting them at this point, but let's have a little bit of a look then to see if we can get at least one driver in. We do have, well, we can bring Moritz Lohner into the commentary booth. We're a couple of minutes away from GT4 qualifying, Moritz. You're going to have to make this one quick, but another race win in the bag for you from a season before this one where you didn't score one and still won the championship. It seems like you're making a habit of winning races this time around, Moritz.
All right, as quick as my poll up. Yeah, it was quite good. Like, I was feeling very comfortable with the Porsche at the Nürburgring. It also favors the Porsche a lot because of all the braking zones. And yeah, could get it together in the qualifying, really good lap. And yeah, from then on, it was just survive turn 1 and yeah, get the win in the bag. A bit unfortunate for Florian behind me. He was running in second all the race, but got swept because of a slowdown, I think. So unfortunate for him, but yeah, best scenario for me.
So coming into race number 2 now, of course, due to the reverse grid, you starting in P10 now. So do you have an overall plan in mind for that particular race? Of course, without giving away any details, you know, how's the pit stop in the factor in, do you think?
Yeah, I have a rough plan in my mind that I want to try out, and I think it should work. But yeah, overall, I'll make sure I'm safe to not get any bad contact or get any bad spins like in the previous races happened every time. I'll just make it easy and make my passes with like a cool mind.
Yeah, you just gotta keep things cool. Paul, do you have anything to say to our race 1 winner?
Just that it's been a very cool, calm and collected drive, and you must have been delighted when you started seeing your teammate starting battling, because it makes things nice and easy for you to just pull away.
Not really, because I obviously support my teammate, and I knew I'm pretty much safe with the Porsche because a Bentley couldn't outbrake me, so I felt pretty confident in P1. And yeah, it was actually sad to see that they fought that hard. I hoped Florian can run away as well, but yeah, it is what it is.
Well, there we go. We will leave you be, and we'll let you prepare for what is potentially a pretty crazy race number 2. Let's see how high you can climb from that 10th place. Thank you very much, Moritz.
Thank you.
There we go, Moritz Lohner there as well, looking for yet another championship here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. We're still a while from the end of the season to see if he can actually convert this time around, but I think he's as strong this season as he ever has been.
He's certainly shown that he's got a tremendous composure about him this season. And I've been really impressed by him out there. He's been doing a very, very good job, considering, you know, how last season went for him, to be able to just hit the ground running and to get so many wins early on. It's all about getting that early run of form and to really give yourself some momentum through to the second half of the season to really push on towards the end of the season. Of course, quite big breaks between each of the rounds of the championship, so it's a bit sort of stop-start for these drivers, but if you can get that championship lead and build that up, then there's nothing better.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we do have GT4 racing happening in just a couple of moments, or rather GT4 qualifying about to get itself underway. And if you're very familiar with the GT4 racing that has gone by already over the course of the season, you would know that it's usually a pretty big Audi fest. Not as big of an Audi fest this time around. We have, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8, 9 Lotuses, I see. I might be miscounting that, as they did change halfway through as the session transferred over. But we do have a good handful of Lotuses. We even have a KTM, and we have 2 Mercedes, in addition to a whole bunch of Audis as well. So it seems like the variety is starting to pick up in this GT4 series. Yeah,
certainly. Considering that in round 1 we had, I think it was about 3 other cars, and then it was the Audi Cup. Is basically what it was. So yeah, no, it's good to see that mix of cars and the little different style of driving that you've got to have for, like the Lotus, for example, of the Audi. But these GT4s, they run a lot closer to each other. They're not as affected by the aero wash, the draft, the slipstream that the car in front causes them. And so therefore they're able to race a little bit closer and be able to run in packs. So we always get some good racing. But I mean, the man that's been really in charge of course has been Chiam.
There he is, out there on the circuit, and he's currently, well, one of the first people out the pit lane. Another car further down the road pipping him to the post with regards to leading the pack around, but But yeah, let's see how this qualifying turns out for Qian, because he typically has had amazing qualifying sessions, a couple of tenths of a second ahead basically of everyone else, and then he tries to run away as far as the race is concerned. So let's see if he can do the same again here today. Of course, same qualifying format as we saw in the GT3 main series here. So you get 10 minutes of qualifying, open qualifying as well, so you do have to deal with everyone out there on circuit rather than just have to hot lap on your own like some other series. But let's have a look then to see what the situation is here in qualifying, because Emre Can, like I said, typically does very well, but look at that. There's also another contender for the championship sitting right behind him in qualifying. That is Alessandro Ottaviani.
Yeah, Ottaviani last time out did a very good job. Was able to push Qian and really showed what he could do in the Audi at Zandvoort. Different track, of course, so you need that little bit of different key skill set to be able to drive this car and drive it hard and fast. But right now, as I said with the GT3 qualifying, you've got to get this banker lap in. You've got to get one solid lap in that you feel, okay, that's a good sort of placeholder, and then you push on for your final attempt or two.
Yeah, of course. Of course, you do have to ignore slightly the purple lap times at the very bottom of the graphic there, because they're not always incredibly accurate over the course of the first lap of qualifying, because you can see Emre Can has also gone purple, so no, two people can't have gone purple in the same lap. But let's have a look then. Emre Can up in towards the front spot there as the rest of the runners start heading their way across the line to complete their first flying laps then. Qian by over a tenth and a half of a second faster than Jonas Vanner in P2 at the moment. Everyone else now getting their first laps in and shaking up the order on the left-hand side there, but it seems like the early pace in qualifying does go the way of that Turkish driver. You know, it's a little bit closer to behind than what we're used to seeing, though.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at it, the first non-Audi car in 5th place of Stanger, 0.3 of a second off of the pole position. He'll be looking to get an out lap now and then get another hot lap put in place. So, yeah, there's a bit of a mix-up with the cars, as there goes Pinces. Still 1/10 off of Qian, but very, very good lap time to get himself up in 2nd place.
Yeah, great stuff there from the Hungarian driver, but Pinces just still that slight bit out of reach. Or rather, Qian just a slight bit out of reach at the moment here in qualifying. Let's see what this second phase will bring us. There's Jonas Vanner setting a pretty decent lap time early on, and he's also got a little bit of slipstream from the couple of cars ahead of him as well here at the moment. So even though this is an out lap, he set himself up probably in the best way possible to go chasing for that pole position, but we'll have to see the results of it in, well, 2 minutes time from this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just having that patience now. Vanner behind the KTM. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's
Lotus.
a fantastic time in the Lotus. Just almost half a tenth off of Qian. So yeah, that Lotus showing some good pace. But here's Vanner then. What can he do in his Audi? Down into turn 1 we go. Hit the apex, the track drops down suddenly there. Be careful of the exit of the corner, because you do get a track limits penalty. And look at the pole position time now. Kunze
up into pole in the Audi. The German showing up Emre Can here by 14 thousandths of a second. It is so close here in qualifying at the moment. Everything's in the balance. It's the closest qualifying session I believe we've had here in the GT4 series so far. Where is Emre Can? He's heading his way through the arena section right now. Is this a lap or is this an out lap only? We'll just see here in a couple of moments' time when he crosses the sector, the sector line. But it looks like this is just an out lap right now for Emre Can. So he's going to get one in at the death here. Whereas Pin says he's heading his way out of that arena section. Now, is this on a lap or is this an out lap still? I still believe it is an out lap for Pin says. So it looks like a lot of these fast times are now going to come in at the very, very end of the session here. Here's Jonas Vanner. Well, he's deciding to abort that qualifying lap. Just slot in behind one of the Audis heading their way through so he can get back out there and onto a fast one again.
That's it. He'll have one more opportunity here, as does Chian, and this is somewhat of an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's finding himself in second place. It's like, oh, okay, I need to pick up the pace here and give it one. So definitely pressure on Emre like we've not seen before so far this season.
Yeah, he just needs to gain 15 thousandths of a second, though. That's all he needs to do. All he needs to find out there on circuit. Jan Stanger, the 4th place in the Mercedes at the moment, so it seems like the Audi domination that we've seen over the course of this season starting to be dismantled bit by bit as we're seeing more manufacturers at the very top of the order here. Still led by those 2 Audis, of course, but it's good to see variety at the very front of the field. Here's Adam Pincez also on a lap at the moment as well, so lots of places to look at. Main one will be Chian as he goes fastest of everyone through Sector 1. Not enough time gain, well, definitely enough time gain to just be able to do it on that sector time alone, and just the same times in Sector 2 and 3, but I know Chian will be chasing for all the time that he needs.
Well, the thing is, it's all well and good doing that in the first sector. You've now got to keep it up and not make a mistake. So the pressure is on Chian, the Team Fordzilla driver, down towards the chicane. What can he do? Well, we'll see the sector time come up, and again, a slight gain again. So gaining even more time on this lap. This is looking a good lap for Chian. He'll be hoping to absolutely nail this final corner.
Here we go then, out of the final corner for Emre Can. It's purples in the first 2 sector. Will it be converted into pole position? Yes, it will, unless someone has something to say about it at the very end of the session here. Vanner has abandoned his lap. Where is Adam Pincez? Pincez about to head his way across the line. I don't think it's good enough. No, it wasn't good enough to put him up into pole position here. Krevi had a pretty good time at the end of the session there. Where is Julian Kunze, though? Kunze, this might still be close. He was green through Sector 1, but he was fastest of everyone through Sector 2. This still might be a chance to get the German up onto pole position. It's a run to the line. It's all dependent on the Sector 3 time. Is it enough for Kunze? No, it's not. A sluggish 3rd sector means he starts 3rd.
But look at second place, Ottaviani coming in there really close then to Chian. What a close, dramatic qualifying session that was. That was fantastic.
That was brilliant stuff, and you can see Emre Can pole position once again. This time, he was run oh so close. 48 thousandths of a second was the gap back to Ottaviani, with Julian Kunze leading the session for the bit there. He starts in 3rd with Vili Krevi doing a fantastic job in that Lotus to secure 4th spot on the starting grid. But what a qualifying session that we've seen here in the GT4 series. The rest of the starting grid is cycling their way through on your screen right now with Patrick Simon. It seems to be one of our German commentators have decided to take part in this GT4 race. So there we go, something that you don't see every day. But we'll get this short warm-up session before we go racing here. But my word, that got a little bit sketchy at the very end there, especially if your name's Emre Can.
Yeah, certainly. But what a lap to pull it out there to get a 10th and a half of the man who was in who was in pole at the time. But of course, this race, it's a little bit different. It's a standing start for all these drivers out there. And you've got a long run down towards turn number 1 from the start line. So if anywhere that Chian is under pressure, it is at this venue with that run down to turn 1.
Yeah, I think so too. He has to be so careful. He needs to nail the start here, otherwise Ottaviani for sure is just going to try and find some way around into turn one, because he knows how important the track position is going to be. If he allows Qian to just try and put in his characteristic crazy lap times at the start of the session just to pull away and then manage the gap from that point forwards, he knows his race for the win is completely done. So that's got to be Ottaviani's task into turn one. I mean, we might even see some dives from the second row of the starting grid as well. Who knows? But I think the story of this race really does, have a major bearing on how, the start of this race, standing towards turn number one, has a major bearing on how this race is going to turn out.
Certainly, it's going to be big, and if Qian just gets even a slightly sluggish start, it's not impossible, as we've seen, to overtake around this track, but it's still going to be not what he'd want to do. Now, the question here is as well, do you push on as hard as possible in that opening stage of the race to try and make it count? If Qian does stay out in the front from pole position, do you push as hard as you can to try and gap the cars behind? But if those cars behind are sticking with you like they did at Zandvoort, we're going to see an intriguing end to that race, because you will see those other cars come into the factor of the end of the race and really push into that arena section. I think that arena section is going to be very telling throughout this race here in GT4.
So some time to prepare the drivers for that standing start then. And it's great to see, you know, I mentioned it a couple of times over that qualifying session, great to see the Lotuses getting themselves towards the top of the order. We saw Jan Stanger in one of the Mercedes, which we certainly wasn't expecting to have so much pace coming into this one. He was making an impact inside that top 5 as well. So it adds another element to the battles now. It's not just, like you said, an Audi Cup. At this stage, it is very much a multi-manufacturer affair, and that's when we can talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each manufacturer and how it relates to certain sectors on this lap. So it's just another element that needs to be considered.
Certainly is, and well, it's really intriguing how this race is going to go. Of course, you know, the track penalties as well, any off-track penalties or corner cuts are going to come into play. So it's important for those drivers who are battling to keep the pressure on the car in front of them, because if you can force the car in front into even the smallest of mistakes of just going across a curb too much, especially at the chicane, that could cost them big time with a slowdown penalty being implemented on them automatically, and therefore it costs them the position. So you've got to be so cool and calm under pressure, but at the same time you've got to be absolutely on the limit every single lap.
That's just the nature of the racing here in series such as this one. We usually, we'd be forgiven for thinking this is the sort of quote-unquote tier 2 of competition. Yes, it is the support series, but we still see some fantastic quality racing here in the GT4s. So that they are, they certainly deserve a lot of praise for the display that they tend to give out here as the support series. And who knows, you might see some of these drivers make themselves known in the wider race room and sim racing community as they develop into much more mature drivers. That's the the task that's going to be on the table for a lot of them. But a lot of them are still drivers that we do know. For example, we do know Adam Pincez. We do know Alita Dinya, who competed in the in one of the other top race room series as well. So for some of these names, it is just more practice more than anything else, I suppose, here in this one. But for everyone else, for those drivers that just only qualified themselves in, say, just outside the top 20, top 30, this is a great opportunity for them to really show what they're made of in front of a live stream, and of course in front of some of the other drivers and teams as well.
Absolutely, and if you're ever going to improve, if you ever want to improve as a driver or in any feel, to be honest, in life. You've got to go up against the best, and you've got to see how you compare to the best. And if you're not on their level, you've got to have a look then, study them. What are they doing differently that you aren't doing? Work on your techniques, on how your driving is as well, and learn how to be really consistent as well. You work on those elements and you'll see yourself progressing through closer and closer to those top drivers. And it's just the world is your oyster then. But the problem is, of course, everybody else is going to be doing the same as you, who are trying to get into that. So that's why we love it. It's so competitive in a series like this. It's what makes it so special.
At least practice starts going on for Julian Kunze right now. He was just doing them in the pit lane. There was a couple of other drivers doing them towards the end of the pit lane as well. So, you know, it's a very good idea in this warm-up session because there's not really much gained just doing laps out there. You want to do something and practice something that's going to be happening in the next minute or so with that practice starts going on at the end of the pit lane. You want to make sure you maximize that one, otherwise you're going to be a sitting duck on the way down in towards turn 1. So it's super important to get that absolutely perfect, otherwise you're going to get the steam train rolling through on you through the first sector. But warm-up session is over now. We'll get ourselves the grid formed up for the race here today. In the GT4 series, this is the support series for the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship powered by NBW Mobility Plus. We are glad you are all watching at this stage. We will have the endurance race of the GT3 series just after this support race, but you still want to stick around because these GT4s can give an amazing show. Emre Can on pole position, but remember, that does not give you the inside line in towards turn number 1. So this is particularly crucial for P1 to get themselves a good start here. Otherwise, it's going to be an easy move down the inside for everyone on that inside line. Just around about 15 seconds to go until we get ourselves the red lights, and then we'll get ourselves racing here at the Nürburgring in the GT4 series. Here comes the hold, here come the red lights ready and raring to go at the Nürburgring in the GT4 series. We are racing now as Emre Can immediately comes across to cut off the lane on the inside there, right up against the pit wall as Emre Can tries to defend from Alessandro Ottaviani down in towards turn number 1. But here comes Julian Kunze then trying to challenge Ottaviani in towards turn number 1. Ottaviani just about holds on. Pintes looking to get himself involved as well. He looks to the inside of Kunze through the arena section. He's run out of the road.
So close between them, really close, but Kunze able to keep that third place. Pintes doing a good job of keeping the pressure up, and already Can trying to run away from Ottaviani. Now Ottaviani's got to keep in the wheel tracks of Emre in front. He's got to try and keep up there. Already gaps forming in the field there, even through the first half of the lap here. So these drivers getting spread out early on.
Yeah, we can see Kunze having a little bit of a scrappy first lap here. It does mean that Pintes is now locked onto the back of him. The two identical Audis might have a fight here on towards the NGK chicane. Kunze feels the need to go defensive, and here they back doors on the entry to the chicane, but Kunze still able to come out on top. But look at how much it's backed up everyone behind, as everyone's looking for a move into the final turn.
Well, it's a good job those two cars have both got the same paint because they traded it, so at least they'll still look the same. But definitely a robust defense there, and well, feeling the need to try and break the slipstream down the start and finish straight. And Pintes feels that he's quicker, wants to get past, but can't make the moves.
No, he can't, and he has to be concerned about what's going on behind as well, because Vanna, Stanger, Vermeulen have all, well, had their little looks here and there, looking pretty eager to try and get themselves a couple of positions here in the early stages of this GT4 event. Of course, 20 minutes of racing here. And, well, it does go by rather quickly, especially if you've been battling throughout the entirety of it. But Let's see then as those two cars at the very front basically gapping the rest of this pack now, mostly because of Kunz's and Pinzes's shenanigans.
Yeah, that's not helped the 3rd and 4th place drivers. They really needed to focus on those cars in front, not let them run away. You can't get too embroiled in your own battle to allow others to pull away, because then it just denies yourself any sort of move forward. You need to work together. It sounds counterproductive to work together with somebody out there that you're competing against, but you've got to think that bigger picture and think, okay, let's not fight too hard. Let's get back to those leaders, and then we can start scrapping with those two. But Ottaviani putting the pressure on Ciano in front. Meanwhile, Pinzes, again, the weave down the start-finish straight from Kunze obviously feels the need to try and break the slipstream.
He does, and he closes all the way up on the brakes. Was that little bit of contact between the two? I think it was.
Yeah.
Pinzes completely has an upset car there. They're coming in towards turn number 2, but everything has been recovered. That was maybe a little bit of a love tap there from the Hungarian onto the rear bumper of the German. But still relatively close together as they exit that arena section, and those two ahead continue to pull away.
Yeah, so it's working out nicely for Cian and Ottaviani. Ottaviani right now, I think he just needs to keep in the wheel tracks of Cian to try and keep any hope of hanging on to an opportunity towards the end of the race. A little bit of a wider line from Kunze there, and having to go defensive again out of Warsteiner curve, and that's just giving Pinzes those little hopes, those little opportunities of a move. But you can see that queue of cars behind the little look there. That was never on that move, and now Pinzes is going from attack to defense.
Yeah, you can see Kunze has the view of this, so as Pinzes overcommitted to the corner, I think he might have. And now he's going to come under threat from behind at this point, as Jonas Vanner is the driver looking to work his way through. Look how close Vanner is coming down the pit straight here. Pinzes had to go all the way to the inside to try and defend that one. Can Vanner make any progress here? No, he's just going to wait, stay in line. A bit of a move further back from Vermeulen as he almost punts Stanger out of the way.
Yeah, that Mercedes getting a bit of a shock then when the Audi was there coming into turn 1. And Kravik behind in the Lotus, the first of your Lotuses out there. Is it Lotai? But anyway, the first of your Lotuses out there in 8th place, just hanging on to this group and thinking, oh, I can see some moves forward in my life here. So, yeah, it'd be great to see that Lotus move forward in the field, but that Mercedes, yeah, a little bit of a shock into turn 1.
Yeah, just a little bit of a concerning moment, shall we say. There's the battle between Pinzes and Vanner, which has given Kunze just that little bit of breathing room at the moment. He's now gotten a little bit of a gap over these cars behind, so not as immediately under threat as he was previously. And now Vanner still in a very comfortable position in terms of sizing up for a move on the Hungarian in the Audi in front of him. So it's amazing how quickly things change sometimes from attack to defense, as Vanner taking a little bit of a wider line coming through that final corner, and you can see once again the shenanigans of going all the way to the pit wall and all the way back. I don't usually like to see it, but it's what drivers do, right?
It's a way of trying to get the competitive edge, but again, I don't see the point in making those moves. It's down that straight when you've got that little bit of a gap, because you're just slowing yourself down the straight. You're forcing yourself to go further distance than if you just kept the car straight. And we've seen some battling further down. Runa in 13th, and Mackenberg battling it out. It's Lotus versus Audi because there's Dina right behind, taking a very wide exit, and then some grass as well, trying to make the long way round work.
Yep, here we go. Bit of fighting, a bit of contact, and Runa has been spat out into the, well, it's not technically a runoff section. It is at this layout. It's where the end of the Michael Schumacher S connects to this portion of the circuit. But yeah, that's not ideal there for Runa. Now he's stuck back into a battle with Mihai Neg. Now files in behind Neg, and now he has Jonas Riedel right behind him, so things just seem to be going horribly at the moment for Rona, as he's going to get, well, Riedel's going to get very close behind him, Rona's going to get very close behind Neg as he'll look for the move into the chicane. That's not a move that's usually on there, but they keep it together.
You certainly do. We've got some cracking battles down in the mid-pack. This is great to see. Oh, he's touched the inside wall!
Oh.
He's around! Oh, it's gone from bad to worse for Runa. He was battling for 12th place earlier on. Now, he's going to be dropping all the way back. He's trying to get this car spun around. He's found himself a gap in the traffic. My goodness, down to 30th place.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where you have a wrong happen to you, you know, you get bullied out of line, you make a mistake, and then it all just piles on top. You just make even more mistakes, even more errors. Drivers try and capitalize on that, going for risky moves, and then you just make that error out of the final corner, hitting the wall, spinning the car right around, and losing a whole bunch of places, and therefore points as well. Still battling going on though. Victor Prim versus Philip Kilman here at the moment. This is the train, the absolute train for P18 at the moment. You basically have everyone from P18 down to P27 in this one.
Yeah, this is a nice little train of 10 cars, and well, they're pushing on. We've got side by side with the KTM as well further back. So yeah, they're putting on a good display, and we're almost at the halfway point of this race. So you know, moves are getting made.
Whoa.
Oh, that was an ambitious move, and it worked.
How is that works there from Sasha Seifler? I don't even know. He's still going to have to try and fight it out wheel to wheel with Kilman, though. And now he's going to get freight trained on the inside by Costa. There's a whole bunch of smoke on the exit of the final corner there. I have to wonder what has happened in that situation. But my word. Meanwhile, towards the very front, here is Vili Previ and Axel Vermeulen, the Lotus versus... well, excuse me, it is the Audi versus the Lotus. Here is Cravey banging doors through turn 4, and it looks like Cravey just squeaking himself ahead for now, but this battle still isn't done as Vermeulen tries some different lines, and here comes Markovic wrestling his way to the inside.
I think I've seen more contact in this race than I have seen in an entire boxing match, that's for sure. God blimey, they're knocking 7 bells out of each other here. This is, I mean, it's fantastic to watch, don't get me wrong, but yeah, they've been really super aggressive, and they've got to be careful with that as they go on in this race. But Crevy doing a fantastic job in that Lotus, but the Audi's behind, they're swarming like a bees.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. They've dropped a whole bunch of time to those cars ahead, so Cravey trying to hold on to position here against those 2 Audis behind, and Vitvoet in this one as well, in the additional Audi also involved in this battle. So with around about 9 minutes left to go in this race, still things at a quite high temperature at the moment, but a little bit calmer this time in towards turn 1. But Creevy still has his work cut out here. Same with Vermeulen as well, because I doubt Markovic will be going easy on him, especially with him going for a very small gap on the last lap through the exit of this section.
Yeah, it's that Lotus is actually pulling away now, so it's worked out for Vermeulen now, having to think defensively, looking at Markovic behind, and no, we've seen Markovic in the past, certainly has put in some moves, and could see more happening in this one, but just calm down a little bit. I think they needed to do that. I think they needed to just get themselves back under control, not let emotion take over, because the worst thing you can do as a driver is let anger take over, because then you you get a bit more wild and aggressive with the car, you start making mistakes, you get frustrated with yourself, and you end up in that vicious cycle that you talked about earlier, Connery. So you need to just calm yourself down. If you can, do a little bit of breathing whilst you're in the car, and then just compose yourself and get pushing. Just be relentless. Be that one pushing all the way to the end. Speaking of pushing all the way to the end, Kunter still feeling the need to be defensive, and Ottaviani, he's dropped off by 2.5 seconds now from your race leader.
Yeah, it's looking so good right now for Emre Can to pick up another win here in this series. By the way, if you're wondering what country Matija Markovic is from, then that is the flag of Montenegro. So yeah, you don't often see drivers from that particular country. So it's great that he's involved here and continuing to fight it out, and for a decent amount of points as well. It just goes to show that sim racing is indeed well and truly international, even though this is obviously a primarily German competition with the ADAC GT Masters, etc., etc. That's why you see a whole bunch of Germans on the left hand side, but this is open to a lot of other countries in Europe.
Yeah, and for those of you in the UK who know the TV quiz show Pointless, you'll know that that's a favourite flag of theirs to bring up for people to be testing their knowledge of flags. So yeah, definitely pushing on and putting on a good show is Markovic, certainly keeping the pressure up on Vermeulen in front. So look at that again, Vermeulen feeling the need to go defensive going into the final corner, and that will compromise his line through the final corner. He'll have to go over to the right hand side as soon as he can. That's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, here we go. So wheel to wheel between Vermeulen and Markovic. Just 0.03 of a second in it as they get quite close into the braking zone. Turn 1 as Vermeulen on the inside should be able to squeak himself ahead, but here comes the cutback move from Markovic. Doesn't tend to be all that successful here through the exit of turn 1 and into turn 2, but it is still a valid attempt as now Vermeulen has to defend into turn 3 as well, because Markovic carried a whole bunch of speed, and look at how close he is now through turn 4. Wider line, he'll get good speed off.
Yeah, he certainly is, but not quite get the run. It's not the longest of straights down here into the hairpin. Trying the long way around, you can be escorted off the track that way, and if you're not careful now, Wittvoet behind the Dutchman will get involved in this battle. So now it's a three-way scrap for 8th place.
Yeah, it is. Fantastic stuff to witness here as Wittvoet looking to try and get involved in this one in the trio of Audis on the way through the hats and back and up to the NGK chicane once again here. Less than 5 minutes to go in this race. We ride on board with Luciano Wittvoet, the Dutch driver, as he tries to track down the Montenegrin, and of course the Belgian ahead of him. Vermeulen slow through the chicane, might give an opportunity to Markovic, and here comes the dive into the final corner for Wittvoet. He's going to try and bully his way through, try and squeeze his way through, and now he's very much involved in this as a three-way fight up across the grid spots. Who's going to make the moves down in towards turn number 1? Will we even see a 3-wide situation? I wouldn't be surprised as Vermeulen tries to hold on the inside. Wittvoet looking to go the long way around. Markovic sticking his nose in there as well to try and gain the position back. There's a little bit of contact between the two into the arena section. They swing their way in as Markovic goes up over the grass.
And that is the problem when you're the middle car in a battle. You're so focused on the car in front trying to overtake them that you take your eyes off the car behind, and Wittvoet, ever the opportunist, brilliant last minute move to the inside into the final corner, is making Vermeulen having to moving him around on the track. He's moving him around. Look at that opposite look on the exit of the hairpin. Vermeulen, he's flustered right now. He's making mistakes.
Yeah, he is. He's the on board with Vermeulen as here comes the speed and the run from Luciano Wittvoet this time around. Let's see if he's able to get the pass done this time. On the way up into the NGK chicane. Oh, this is going to be so sketchy here if they continue too wide, but Vermeulen is still just about ahead. Will again be slow through that chicane, and Wittvoet might have an opportunity if not into this final corner, he can sit close and still try and make that move down into the into turn 1. Let's ride on board then with Markovic, who has the best view of this one. There is Vitvoet just ahead of him. Vitvoet looking for the lines, looking for the defense. There's a little bit too much weaving there, I feel, from Vermeulen as Markovic sticks his way down the inside. Has he been able to gain the position? He'll fight it out side by side.
Yeah, he certainly will, and that's going to allow Vermeulen just to have a little bit of a breather from being under attack. These two fighting, and of course, look at that now. We've even got Schulze coming in the Mercedes. More contact happening there. My goodness, this is definitely going to be an 18 rating by the end of this one. So, yeah, definitely pushing the limits there. But it's been tremendous racing.
Yeah, it's been amazing. There's been optimistic dives for sure. It's been maybe a little bit of door banging, yes, but it's still, well, all three involved in this one. Vermeulen, I gotta say, I look with skepticism on the amount of moves that he made coming down towards the end of the pit straight there on that lap to try and defend the corner. So maybe that's something the stewards will be looking at after this one. By the way, we'll have to cut away from this battle rather briefly because we do have a developing one for P3 as Adam Pince is gaining a whole bunch of ground over Julian Kunze.
Well, we thought this one had calmed down, but obviously we're into the final minute of the race momentarily, so these two have decided it's the final lap. We've got to give it absolutely everything here. Pince wants and needs a podium, but Kunze also wants that podium. So the Euronics Gaming driver versus Arnage competition. This is going to be tremendous, but the time is running out here.
Yeah, 42 seconds left on the clock here for Emre Can to just complete this lap and get himself another race win in the bag for the Turkish driver. What a star performance it has been, not just in this race, but throughout the entire season as well for Emre Can, as he's heading his way through towards the final couple of corners here, and he will be crowned the winner of this round here at the Nürburgring. Round number 4 of the championship. Emre Can, just a couple more corners to go, 6 seconds left on the clock. That's the confirmation that this is indeed the final lap. But for Emre Can, it's another trophy to add to his cabinet as he heads his way through the final corner. Emre Can wins the GT4 support event here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Kunze holds on to third over Pince, but let's have a look back though, because what's going on here for Luciano Vitvoet? He's got himself a slowdown penalty, I think. It's going to cause a little bit of confusion here to the end, as Schulze also looking to try and gain the position over him at the line. I think Vitvoet might just have that one at the ends there for P10. But it seemed like almost the same situation happened there for Vitvoet as Hasse in the Sprint GT3 race.
Yeah, it certainly did look that way, and but what a drive, what a race. That was absolutely brilliant. That's the best, do you know what, I think that's the best entertainment we've had from this championship all season. It's got that's a high watermark in terms of the entertainment factor, but Emre Can, once he got out front and once he was able to break the slipstream, just absolutely dominant out there. He is pretty much unstoppable in this GT4 field.
Yeah, I get that feeling as well as we wait for the rest of the runners to head their way through and to cross the line to complete their particular races. But in this one, you got to give credit where credit is due. Emre Can coming out on top once again. Another boatload of points to his tally as he extends his advantage in the championship. This time he won by over 4.5 seconds back to Ottaviani. Julian Kunze and Pince, they got close for P3 at the very end there. Jonas Vanna in 5th place, Stanger in 6th place, Krevi in 7th, Vermeulen, Markovic and Vitvoet in that order, by the way, 8th, 9th and 10th. They gave us a fantastic last 10 minutes of this race as Schulze is in 11th, Verdinha in 12th. You can see the rest of the finishing results start to cycle their way through on your screen right now, and it's again this sets up now for what is hopefully going to be a pretty good endurance GT3 event.
Yeah, well, there's your high watermark right there. And let's see that. We won't see that type of race in this endurance race because it is that double length race. It's 40 minutes long, so you're going to see a bit more reserved driving to a degree. You will still see people trying to make the moves. But how good was that? How exciting was that? That was brilliant to watch. I loved that.
Yeah, I really love that as well. It just goes to show exactly what I was saying about this series. You know, it gives the same, if not more, excitement than the than the main series on occasion, and those drivers just completely delivering the goods. As far as the entertainment is concerned, of course, we'll have to watch a little bit later on to see if there's any steward action that needs to be had with regards to that battle. I hope not, because we don't want battles like that to be decided in the steward's office. We want it to be decided out there on circuit instead. But I gotta let my heart rate come down after that. But for Emre Can, he doesn't care about his. He's got himself another maximum point score today and charging on to potentially become the GT4 champion at the end of this season. But we do have to wait a couple more rounds.
Yeah, we certainly do. And I mean, you look at it, he's got 3 more rounds of the championship to go. He's won every one of the races. The only one that he really looked to be challenged on was last time out at Zandvoort. That was a really close finish in the lead of that one, but he was able to win that one. It's just, again, it's so just, it's like a metronome, just constantly hitting his marks, getting his lines right, getting the braking right for each corner. And he's just relentless in his pursuit of taking victory here today. And you're going to be struggling to compete with that. You need a mistake from him. And unfortunately for the rest of this field, it doesn't look like he's going to make a mistake.
That's you took the words right out of my mouth there. He seems to just not make errors. And that is such a strong attribute for a driver to have, even in a high-pressure situation, especially coming out of that qualifying session. He has no idea whether the race pace of the guys behind are going to be the same as what they were in qualifying. So he's coming into the race start on the outside line, remember? So he needs to nail his start to be able to lead in towards turn number 1. And he was still able to convert. That didn't phase him whatsoever. And he did what he always has done and pulled away at the very front. That is such a mature drive.
It certainly is, and it's a sign of a good driver. Even sort of great drivers that just have that constant push, a constant lap after lap after lap, being able to keep that pace up. And Ottaviani's no slouch, not a slow driver in the slightest, and wasn't able to hang on to his pace. So definitely, he is certainly impressive. But a battle for second place in the championship is where it's going to heat up, and things were getting mixed up a little bit with Ottaviani getting in second place there.
Yeah, it was. So a surprise, a little bit of, not so much a surprising result, but a result that Ottaviani would take every day of the week, so to speak. But now we are indeed done with that GT4 event. Now we have to look to the future and have a look at this endurance GT3 event coming up. Of course, unlike the sprint race, we have 40 minutes of racing. We have that scheduled pit stop to be concerned about as well. I wonder how that's going to factor in. Of course, we saw the various strategies play out there at Zandvoort with a lot of drivers just barreling in as soon as they were able to, because of the fact that track position was so important at that circuit. Isaac Price was one of the only ones that decided to go long and come back through the field on the fresher tyres. Is the strategy going to be a little bit different here at Nürburgring compared to at Zandvoort? I personally think we might see a bit of a wider display of who goes for what strategy here in this.
I think a lot of the drivers will have seen what Isaac did and see what worked for him. What worked for him was that he because so many cars went into the pit straight away as soon as they could, it gave him a lot of free space. He was able to then just concentrate on his own driving, his own lines, speed repeatedly, just kept that pace up. Yeah, the fresher tyres, you get that advantage for 3, maybe 4 laps, but once you've had that advantage, you fall back to everyone else's pace. So it only, as long as he keeps that pace up relentlessly, when it comes to his pit stop, then he can use that advantage in his favour to then start making some moves on others, like at Zandvoort, making moves where we hadn't seen any moves being made. So it does show. So the longer pit strategy can come into play. I don't think there'll be too many try it, but I think Isaac will be one of those because he has been doing that strategy each and every round of this championship.
That seems to be have been the theme over the course of the first half of this championship, so I don't see any reason that it would change coming into the Nürburgring here. But I'm thinking of the likes of Barcelona, for example, who's having to now start in P10. If he can't immediately work his way through the fields in the first couple of laps to be able to get near enough the top 5 and then look good for the end of the race, maybe he'll have to pull something out with regards to strategy. Maybe something a little bit different so that he can get himself up there. Maybe he pits early so he can get into clear air and try and get the undercut done. Or he also does the opposite and goes long, so then, again, he can get clear air and go for more of an overcut sort of situation. So we will have to wait and see. But I'm certainly excited because it does seem like like I said, the strategy is going to be a little bit more varied here in this one compared to what we're used to seeing, and with a lot of drivers also out of position as well due to the reverse grid. But Kevin Siggy starting from pole position, Paul. What's the thoughts on that?
Yeah. That is good. I mean, he did comment that some of the others at the front were a little bit too quick for him. So we know how robust he can be at defending. He's a top quality driver. You don't end up at Team Redline by accident. You've got to be a really, really good driver to end up at that team. And so he won't suffer any falls. He knows what it takes to win races. So he'll be pushing hard. You'll see him do defensive moves, parking the car on the apex. You'll be doing all the tricks to try and keep in front. But it's where this pit stop strategy comes into play. If you're getting held up, if you're the car that's getting held up and you reach that pit stop window where you know that you can then go to the end of the race, you almost do the opposite of what the car in front does. So if they stay out, you pit. If they pit, you stay out. If you feel confident you're quicker than that car in front, you've got that advantage in being the second car there. You can work opposite to what the car in front does.
Yep, you can. You really can. And well, there's a whole bunch of different things that can happen here in the GT3 endurance event. Of course, we won't have a qualifying session attached to this one because it's based on the reverse grid results from race number 1. So about a minute before we get the gridding procedure underway here for race number 2 at the Nürburgring for round number 4 of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship, powered by NBW Mobility Plus. We're all ready and raring to go, at least here in the commentary booth. I hope everyone watching on the YouTube stream on Traction GG are also ready to go as well for what potentially could be a pretty enthralling race. At least if the GT4 event is anything to go by. We had a little bit more relaxed affair in the front part of the field for the sprint race, as you see Per Filsker decide to completely ignore the track whatsoever into the final couple of corners, but that's not going to matter. It's just a practice session. We're going to be heading into the race very, very shortly, but still, let's see then if Barcelona in particular can make up those positions from P10, getting the bad end of the reverse grid. Let's see if Kevin Siggy can pull away at the very front of the field after benefiting from the reverse grid, and let's see how those pit stops factor in as well. Near enough the middle of the race, but we might see a little bit more spread out window than we're used to seeing due to the nature of the circuit. So we transfer over into the race session then. Same deal as the sprint race. Drivers will form up, get single file, and then we will get double file. The stewards have insisted before the chicane instead of after the chicane, like we saw in the sprint race, which I guess can cause a couple of issues there, Paul, because you can't really go too wide through the chicane at the best of times.
No, you certainly can't, but people will always put ambition above actual achievement and push on and try and take advantage of any opportunities that arise. I'll be interested to see what happens there at the chicane if somebody does try anything, but we'll see this. The run down into the arena section is going to be key. Also, what will be key is how quickly the green flag comes out as well, because it was held for a very, very long time on that original start. So the drivers will pull away and they will get ready for the start of this race. Their warm-up lap here.
I tell you what, for the start, we'll go on board with someone a couple of rows deep, just so that we can tell exactly when the green flag has indeed come out here, because it's not really, well, it's quite difficult to tell from this particular angle where you have that long shot all the way from turn 1 as the cars come out of the final corner. So that's what we'll do for the start here, is they'll all get themselves single file. So the starting grid, just to remind you, Kevin Siggy, P1, Jacob Brzezinski, P2, Ben Tabanki, P3, Dornaden in P4. Then you've got Kripner and Hasser on row number 3, Yarshel and Pajic on row number 4, and you have Keithley and Lohner on row number 5. So that's the end of the reverse grid there. You see Isaac Price in P11, missing out narrowly on reverse grid pole position. He starts in P11 with Thibaut Casabon also on that 6th row as well. Rietveld and Rudinger, row number 7 for them. Gianmarco Fiduci and Barner will line up P15 and 16 respectively. On that row number 8. We have Wisniewski and Nagy, P17, 18. We've got Jajowski, Pilska, Rachel, Pfeiffer down to P22. Then Zeifler, Garcia, Lorenz, Hugfeld down to P26. And then the last 3 cars in the starting grid here today will be Berker, will be Zebrich and Nuninghoff. That's the order there. So the drivers now getting themselves formed up for the start here. They'll have to negotiate this chicane 2x2, which can be pretty sketchy at the best of times. Let's go on boards then with the driver of Alexander Dornaden for this start, just so we get a better view of what happens at the drop of the green flag here. Everyone just waiting, maintaining pacing speed as they head their way through the final corner. Of course, the command will come from race control. Whether to start the race, you have to stay in your lane until that point arises. Only when the command has given can you step out and try and go for overtakes. The green flag is out now, and Dornaden gets a jump here. He might even be able to gain 1, if not 2 spots if he's able to carry the momentum, but no, there's been similar cars that have had good starts in behind as well. Battle 2x2 for the race lead though, as Kevin Siggy back. Oh, there's a big incident that's collected a couple of cars in it, but somehow everyone's still going.
That's absolutely incredible. Kevin Siggy, of all of them though, the one to get away and to run off laughing. He'll be absolutely loving that. Dornaden then up into 2nd place. It was Banky who had the contact happen to him. Jack Keithley up to 4th place, good start for him. Isaac Price up to 7th place. Now, Moritz Lerner, awful start for him. He's down to 20th.
Oh no, Lerner, he must have gotten caught up in that incident at turn 1. The big stack up that happened as a result of that one as well. It's not necessarily the initial incident that's the problem in those crashes. It's everything that happens as a chain reaction behind us. Everyone just brakes and tries to slow up. Sometimes you get people running into the back of each other. Potentially, though, might have gotten caught up in all of that as he now heads his way down the inside of Nagy into the chicane. Well, that's at least one position potentially done, but Nagy will still fight it.
Oh, and a little bit of a bump and a hip check, and thank you very much. Nagy will try and fight back, but we heard from Lerner, who he said that the Porsche cannot be beaten for braking, so he'll feel very confident working his way through the field down into turn number 1 especially.
Rietveld looking down the inside of Fiduci into turn 1. The space has run out a little bit though. Lohner is all over the back of him as well, so Lohner definitely trying his best to recover from that awful start. Started P10, down in P15 now, so he's already recovered a couple of spots since the last time you mentioned where he was there, Paul.
Yeah, he's certainly been working his way through and trying to work hard. Kevin Siggy, 8/9 of a second clear at the front, so he'll be happy with that. But there's another big mover. He started in 11th place in the end. Isaac Price moving up to 7th, so taking advantage of all the shenanigans that happened at turn 1, and is able to get back up into that top 10 after his disappointment in race 1.
Yeah, so looking pretty good for Price now. He can't afford to have the same single car error that he had in the first race, though, in a pretty strong position. So he wants to try and crack into that top 5 once again, but this time he'll look to try and maintain it as we head our way across the line to complete another lap here. Again, 40 minutes of racing. We'll have the pit window open. Usually it's about 10 minutes either side of halfway. So with 30 minutes to go, that's when you'll see the ultra early stoppers happen. With 10 minutes to go, that's where you'll see the very late stoppers. But look at that, Tim Yarshell just nipping down the inside there of, I believe that was, it was Krippner, excuse me, nipping down the inside of Price.
No, it was Krippner losing the position to Yarshell. You were right the first time. When you've got a bunch of Bentleys all racing together, it's it doesn't help matters. But these drivers, Krippner just getting caught out a little bit down into turn 1, and Yarshell, we've seen that he's not shy to make moves, making that move up into 5th place. So he's getting some good points here as Moritz Lerner now 15th place, all over the back of Jeffrey Reitfeld then. So that's 14th and 15th. And well, here's 2 drivers who know each other very well, and they will be sparring against each other once again. And that Porsche just having to be patient. Looks so small compared to the BMW and the Bentley there.
Well, these aren't GTE cars, of course. They're GT3 machines, but you can still insert the big boy M8 memes in here as well. But yeah, it does seem pretty tiny compared to everyone else as they'll head their way down in towards turn number 1. Here comes the lunge, perhaps, for Moritz Lerner. It is a big lunge, trying to use that braking performance of the Porsche over the BMW. Not going to get anything done through turn 1. Can he convert through turn 2 and 3, though? That might be the bigger issue. No, he's just going to stay in behind. I was going to say he stays in behind. Still looks to the outside of turn 3. Causes Rietveld to go offline a little bit. And now, as a result, Lerner will get the speed off at turn 4. And that's a big snap there for Rietveld. Will allow the opportunity for Lerner to work his way through here, and Rietveld's overcome it into the corner there through the right-hander, and that is an easy position gained by Moritz Lerner.
Yeah, you won't get an easier gift than that one, so thank you very much. Let's focus forward on the next car. But as I said in that first race, the further up the field you get, the harder it gets to make some moves, so things will get very interesting for them. By the way, Nikodem Wisniewski started the race in 17th, up to 9th place through all of that shenanigans that happened at turn 1. So doing a fantastic job moving his way through. Definitely, when you consider that Yayovsky and Garcia, who were the other 2 who got qualifying bans from the sprint race, they're down in 19th and 20th places. So Wisniewski has been on fire today.
Yeah, he really has. And, well, let's see if he can make even further forward progress. I wouldn't be surprised. He does have his teammate ahead of him, though, and his compatriot in the form of Jacob Brzezinski. So the 2 Polish drivers very much in the thick of things in P8 and P9, respectively. Siggy, though, as he attempted to try and get away in the early stages of this race, he is slowly but surely being reeled in, though, at this point. It was 0.2 of a second, excuse me, not 0.2 of a second, 0.1 of a second going the way of Dorneden on that last lap. So he is catching here, so that initial advantage that Siggy had because of the incident is starting to be swallowed up a little.
Certainly is, and Kevin, this is the thing, he wanted to try and take advantage of that issue at the start of the race, and that's what allowed him to pull away. Now he's coming under pressure from Dorneden. He won't be worried about it just at the moment. Dorneden's just too far back to make any threats towards him. But as this race progresses, that threat will be becoming larger and larger here, because Donadon does have the slipstream of that Audi in front, and we've seen how good this Bentley is. I mean, you look at that, 2nd through to 9th, 8 cars, all Bentleys, and they're sandwiched by 1st and 10th place being Audis.
Yep, they are. So the manufacturer, well, the dominant manufacturer, at least right now in this race, is mostly Bentleys, but it is the Audi that leads the way for the moment by about 0.6 of a second. We do have some decent fighting a little bit deeper in the pack, by the way, and we have to go around about P22 deep to be able to see these battles happening. But here's one between Christopher Hugveld and Peter Pilsker. So the Mercedes and the BMW looking to give us a little bit of a scrap here, at least not immediately it seems, as they head their way in through that little shortcut as you completely cut out the middle sector of the regular GP layout and straight onto the top of the Schumacher S as you come into the left at the final sector, or what would be the typical final sector on the GP layout. So that's the situation. Now, would you prefer if we raced on the full circuit, Paul?
Oh, that was a car going off to the right then. Who was that going across the grass? That would have been Rachel, I do believe. Still out there on track, but suddenly just went left across the grass there. That was rather bizarre. That caught my attention. But yeah, Hugveld, we saw in the sprint race getting bullied about a bit. So good to see him in 21st. There's a dive down the inside on Isaac Price. Jakob Brzezinski, very authoritative on Isaac Price. Of course, the former Williams Esports driver, Isaac Price. Look at them still battling away. Price, if he can hold that outside line, he can get the inside, but no, he's not able to hold on to that. So Brzezinski, very, very late braking move. Very, very good as well. Very nice and played. Yeah,
a lot. You just have to be committed to that move. You can't half-ass it at all. You have to go 100%, otherwise you're just never going to gain the position. And, well, Brzezinski did that in quite competent fashion. So now, next driver further down the road for him is Leonard Krippener in and again, the Bentley. It's a whole bunch of Bentleys here inside of the top 10. But Krippener is the next target. But and then after him, it's a more considerable gap up into the top 5 train. So pit window is technically open at this point, and you can see the red icons on the tower on the left-hand side of your screen, dictating that well, everyone has stayed out so far. Although I did see a car head their way down in towards pit lane. Didn't quite catch who that was. Yeah, it seems to have been Wisniewski. There he is, coming down in. He seems to be the only driver to have done so, though. Yeah, well, no, there's a red light car there as well. So that's Reitfeld as well coming onto pit road. So a few early stoppers. So again, that's where I spoke about earlier. If you're stuck behind a car, or you feel that you're stuck behind a car, get yourself into the pits, get your mandatory pit stop out of the way, and get yourself clear air, get some quick laps in with those fresher tyres, and hopefully get the jump over that car that you were stuck behind. Now, if you're the car that was ahead of them, you need to be thinking a bit long and hard about reacting to them and to stop them taking advantage of those fresh tyres. Yeah, so do we see an immediate response from any of these cars on this lap, or are we going to see just another handful only head their way down on towards the pit lane? That's the question. So Kevin Siggy and Dorna Dent up into the NGK chicane here in the Audi and the Bentley respectively. Does anyone dive their way down in for a surprise early stop from this leading train? Yes, there is. Was Keithley. Yeah, it was Keithley. And look at this from Krippener and Brzezinski, I believe it is, having a bit of a battle through the final corner. Yeah, Isaac Price with them as well. So he's battling it out with them. So 3 cars together, all fighting it out. And Price has the best seat in the house right now. Yeah, he does. Creeps his way to the inside so that he can get the move done over Krippener. Oh, it gets a little bit sketchy off the corner. Price around the outside trying to carry the momentum through the arena section, and Krippener still looking for the inside for turn 3, but that will be fighting a losing battle.
And Hassa was thinking, oh, I've got a chance here, and tried to get advantage of that and tried to follow through, but couldn't do. And look in the background there. That's your championship leader, Moritz Lerner, up to 11th place right now. I know there's been 1 or 2 pit stops happen in front of him that will put him there. There's Jack Keithley coming out of pit road. So we've got a good handful. And again, come out to nice, clear track. This is what you want to do. He's got to now try and take advantage of those fresh tyres.
Got to get on to temperature and pressure first, though. But as long as he can do that, then he'll be setting blistering times out there, seeing if he can get the overcut getting the undercut, excuse me, working. Another couple of cars heading their way down on towards the pit lane now. A couple of leaders this time as Banki heads his way in. Dorneden also in, but maybe more crucially, Kevin Siggy stays out another lap.
Yeah, so he's happy. He's feeling happy there. He might be thinking of that longer strategy, that longer stint length, and to try and take advantage of the fresher tyres towards the end of the race. We've seen how that's worked out for for Isaac Price throughout this championship so far. I think that was Casabon just having issues finding his pit stall. Here's Jack Keithley then. So this is going to be crucial. Where did he come out along with those that have just headed down onto pit road of Banki, for example, and Dorneden?
Yeah, so Banki, Dorneden, Krippner still looking to get their pit service done. Here comes Jack Keithley. Here comes Dorneden coming off for the pit lane. How close is he in relation to Jack Keithley? Well, ahead of him, coming down in towards turn number 1, but Keithley has just about got ahead of Banki there, coming off of the pit lane. So there we go. That's the state of play coming off the pit lane and the difference in the strategies there. I'm having a look to see whether Siggy is going to come down in this time. Yes, he is. Is Yarshel going to come down in? No, he's going to go longer.
Yeah, so again, these strategies are starting to play out, but this is intriguing. This is really good that we're getting these different strategies in this race, because you can make those overtakes. You're not having to dive down onto pit road straight away. It gives you the opportunity to flex your strategic muscle and to go on in this event. So definitely, Kevin Siggy seems to be the only one who's pitted this time. Oh no, there's a couple more onto pit road. So Nagy, and I believe it was Garcia onto pit road as well.
Moritz Lerner also has not come down on towards the pit lane just yet. What's happened to Yarshel? There's been a bit of contact with Brzezinski, I think. Oh no.
So easily done through there. You're so slow, and you're checking up, and it's so easy for the car behind just to make that slightest of contact. And when you're going through those corners, you're braking hard. All the weight goes over the front of the car, so even the slightest of contacts to the rear could just push the car around, and before you know it, you're facing the wrong way, feeling a bit silly.
So the stewards will look at that one. We only caught the very back end of it, but I did see Brzezinski was very close to him at the time of the spin, so it might have been helped by a little bit of contact, but we're not too sure. Of course, we're not able to do replays, unfortunately, here on the English stream. I believe the German stream might be able to, so if you do want to have a look at that, then maybe go over to the ADAC channel and have a look. But yet more cars coming down on towards the pit lane. It was Moritz Lerner coming down in that time, so championship leader in, defending champion in that Porsche, and well, let's see how this works out for him. He's going to have slightly fresher tyres, of course, than Dorneden and Keithley and Banki and of course Siggy as well. By the way, Siggy did come out ahead of Dorneden, which is crucial.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's managed to make that one work, and of course, 1 lap fresher tyres won't really matter that much in a race of this distance. If it was a longer race, if it was a longer endurance race, then yeah, you would be factoring in that 1 lap longer. But in this race like this, it'll just give him that little bit of an edge on that 3rd or 4th lap on those tyres over the car behind us. Well, this car's still on pit road right now. Lerner's just leaving his pit stall. So we'll have to wait and see how all the pit stops pan out. But again, Brzezinski staying long, he's out front. Price is staying long, so too Florian Hassa. It's great to see these different strategies coming into play here.
So yeah, interesting indeed. We do have a couple of protest and student results from lap number 1. So lap number 1, turn 1, Nuninghoff causing a chain reaction that spins Pilsker, 6-second penalty, 1 strike. There's Dornaden and Krippner warning for both for being aggressive, which is as much as Brzezinski and Banki. Jovski getting a 6-second penalty, 6-second slowdown penalty, I would have assumed, because they can do that in the race room settings. So 1 strike for him. Yarshel got a 3-second slowdown for blocking Pajic, and he got Kazubon for an illegal pass against Fiduci. He got 6 seconds in a strike for that. So the stewards have been pretty active on those incidents from lap 1.
And that's the benefit of having live stewarding in an event like this. It gets you those instant results as to any penalties. It can, if not appease the driver who's been affected by it, but at least make them know that the stewards have looked at it and found that it was the other person at fault. So yeah, that does go against them. We saw how those strikes can add up, and it cost 3 drivers a qualifying ban this time around. So those strikes, they soon add up in this championship. Still, your leaders staying out there. This is almost the point where if you're Isaac Price and you feel that you're quicker, do the opposite of the car in front, and they are starting to catch some lap traffic as well.
Yep, they are just a little bit further down the road there. We saw into turn 1. Price not close enough for a move in this time on Brzezinski in towards turn number 1. There is Kevin Siggy, who's, of course, was in the race lead at the start of this race. Still in what is effectively the race lead at the moment. The leading car of all of those that have come down on towards the pit lane. Going for this humongous undercut on the drivers that have stayed out. So Brzezinski, Price, Hasser, Pajic, Yarshel, all those drivers will have a massive tyre advantage at the end of this event if they continue to push this out even longer. But how much track position will they lose as a result of that, though?
That's a big question, really. And if they're comfortable with their pace, then stay out, go that long distance, and then get that advantage towards the end. If we go by what's happened previously, Isaac Price will come in with about 13 minutes or so to make the most advantage of those fresher tyres, the fresh rubber, certainly giving you that little bit of an edge for 3 or 4 laps, as we keep on mentioning. Brzezinski's heading on pit road, so race leader deciding halfway point, that's my time.
Yep, so Brzezinski in, and well, that will mean that Isaac Price goes for the time being into the race lead. So Brzezinski deciding to basically split the race distance half and half here, down at pretty much 20 minutes to go of a 40-minute event. So into his pit box he comes to get the tyres and of course the fuel for the end of the event here. Where does he come out in relation to everyone else, though? Because of course he's not going to come out in the race lead. That would be a miracle. But how far behind this leading trio will he be out behind, and will he be out behind Banki is the important problem as well. Same with Wisniewski a little bit further back.
It's interesting how Banki has dropped back off of Kevin Siggy and Dornaden and Keithley, so that's been interesting to see how he's not been able to keep with their pace. Here comes Brzezinski out of pit road, careful not to speed, and then off of the speed limiter and back up and running, and he's going to come out behind his teammate. So Wisniewski has managed to get the jump, but he's got those fresher tyres.
Yeah, so Brzezinski, as long as he can really put those fresher tyres to good work in the early laps here, which is the important thing. When you have fresher tyres, oh, careful, Wisniewski. You've got a very big slide coming through turn 3 there, which is not going to help the situation whatsoever. And now his teammates are really bearing down on him at this point. So what has happened here at the very front? Well, Isaac Price still leads with Marko Pajic in tow. Then you've got Tim Yarshel also staying out at this point. So again, we continue on with this these different philosophies going on with regards to exactly which lap these guys want to come down in and get their pit stop service for the end of the race. Here comes Brzezinski and Wisniewski, though. I don't think Wisniewski is going to fight this one. it's fresher tyres for Brzezinski, although saying that, Wisniewski does stay ahead in towards the final chicane, but the better grip from Brzezinski is going to mean he's going to get massive drive off of that chicane, and he's going to gain the position up into 12th to now go and chase Spence Monkey.
The better grip and also the better line as well, because Wisniewski messed up the chicane and didn't get a good run out of it. I wouldn't write him off. I wouldn't write off Nicodem out of that one. There goes out the pits, Florian Hasser behind Moritz Lerner. So Lerner's been able to jump Hasser in all of this.
Yeah, Lerner's been doing very, very well on this recovery drive after that mess of a start, which I don't believe it was his doing. It was just the whole dive in towards turn number 1, the incident, the spin, and everyone just sort of clumping up behind it. That's sort of caused a chain reaction a little bit further back. But Lerner, continuing on with the solid recovery at the moment. But we are still waiting for that Bentley to come down in. Isaac Price, we're still waiting for Yarshel, Pajic, Fiduci, Rudinger, and Yotti, a couple of drivers, Yayovsky as well, to come down in as well. So there we go. Actually, Pajic has come down in. So they're starting to trickle in, Paul.
Just to go back on your point about Moritz Lerner, were you basically saying that he was like Diana Ross and in the middle of a chain reaction? I'll get the door. Anyway, but yeah, Pajic certainly doing the pit stop right now. So Siggy will be moving past here and moving forward. I am available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. As out the pit lane goes Pajic, and where will he filter out? What's going to be behind Hasser, or is it? Yes, he is. Is it going to be ahead of Krippner? Yes, it is. Pajic nicely slotting in there. So Lerner and Hasser doing a good job and getting ahead of Pajic in all this pit stop cycle.
Yeah, so a couple of jumps have happened already in terms of the strategy, but this will continue to evolve over the next 15 minutes of this race with the tyre differences coming into effect. Of course, there's sometimes single laps of difference in between each of these drivers' pit stops, so it's not massive of an effect that it'll have. But again, it's something that is going to play a factor here in this one. Price is still continuing out there, by the way. Last lap he did a 2:25.588, which is, I would say, 2 or 3 tenths of a second slower than those guys that have come down in.
2:25.
Oh, excuse me, 1:25. Yeah, 1:25.
I was very concerned then that it was a minute slower, but I think that he'll be coming onto pit road either this lap or next, because it's getting towards the end of that, and you want to give yourself as much time as possible to take advantage of those fresher rubbers. In fact, we've got other drivers on pit road, so definitely as we see Fiduci come out pit road then for Team Fordzilla, that striking livery for that team, and he's going to head out there into turn 1 and carry on. So Price and Yarshel, the other two who have yet to pit, are about but Price is about 35 seconds ahead of Kevin Siggy at the moment. If Siggy can hang on and get a win out of this, then that'll be a really, really good drive, because he did look to be under pressure before the pit stop cycle started.
Yeah, so we'll see Lerner trying to gain a couple of more points here. This is again, like I said, recovery based on that first event. Price in, yeah, Price is in. So that will mean, though, that Tim Yarshel has also come down in as well. So it looks like everyone's come down in for their pit stop service. Kevin Siggy, as a result, will likely get himself back towards the race lead here. In fact, I would say it's almost a guarantee. But where does Yarshel and Price come out in relation to that leading group? They're still on pit lane, still getting their service done as the leaders pass them on the pit straight. Isaac Price trundling his way down the pit lane. There goes Brzezinski, Wisniewski, all getting past at this point. Where is Pajic? Pajic has also gone past Krippner as well. So it looks like Price will slot in behind Krippner here. Ahead of Rietveld, though. Yarshel not quite ahead, but ahead enough to be able to secure it on the exit of turn 1.
So the crucial thing for Price is if this is going to work for him, he's got to get back to at minimum 7th place in all of this, because that's where he was when the pit stop cycle started. So he's got to push on now and really try and get at least what 4 positions up the road for him. So it's going to be a tall order, is that, considering the standard of drivers that are in front, but he does have that advantage of the fresher rubber underneath his right foot.
There we go, 1.2 seconds until he can get up to Krippner, so a little bit of a gap to try and eat into in the next couple of minutes to be able to get that 1 position. Let's have a little bit of an update about what's going on at the very front, though, because this is the gap between the front 2. It's around about a second at this point. Siggy, again, this will be a great win for him if he's able to pull it off. Dorneden, though, keeping him honest at this point, but I think Dorneden just needs that little bit extra pace, needs that little extra something to be able to lock onto the back of that Audi ahead of him and give him a good challenge in the final 10.
Yeah, we know that Dorneden has got some speed in that car. The Mercedes is very strong out there, as Florian Hasse and Wisniewski are battling away with Pajic. Pajic, of course, petting a little bit earlier than these two. You don't normally go 3 wide through turn 4, but it almost did. And Hasse getting the good run out the corner. He was trying to get the inside to go the long way around, and that's not going to work for him.
No, not going to work at all. Hasse still looking for an opportunity over the Bentley, and Krippner's closing in on this one, by the way. Same with Isaac Price, as there's the lunge from Hasse into the right-hander, but can't quite get it done. A little bit of a wiggle from Wisniewski. Krippner is looking to try and capitalize on this one now. He's going to try and maybe look for a move into the NGK chicane over Hasse. No, staying in line. He knows it's a risky move into the chicane.
And look who's rocked up behind them. Isaac Price. He's on fresher rubber. We know he is. So he's going to have an advantage on the power and on the brakes. So this is where he needs to take advantage of it. Use the slipstream of the car in front, and straight away, look at that. Krippner knows that he's under pressure now, knows that he's got to go defensive. Price, he can run the outside line. We've seen the outside line work around here in turn 1, and it's getting squeezed out, but it's going to give you the inside for the next 2 corners. But fresher rubber showing its advantage once again for Isaac Price.
Isaac Price up inside the top 10 now, and the next few cars are not too far down the road. The gap has come down, well, just a little bit briefly there between P1 and P2, but it seems like Dorneden's lost that all again as the gap's up to 1.2. But yeah, this is looking pretty good right now for Price. Everyone fighting ahead of him has really made his job and his life a little bit easier. Now, Hasse and Wisniewski are the drivers that are relatively close. And, well, just a handful of tenths of a second between them, but Price is coming up very, very quickly.
Yeah, that big, ominous, Bentley behind. It started with a B, but it's Bentley, not BMW. Looking strong. Oh, Moritz Lerner and Brzezinski. Change of position there between those two. So Brzezinski losing out there.
Yeah. Great move there from Lerner into the chicane. Lerner's forced to go defensive as well, coming down the pit straight. So Brzezinski's going to try and dip back into the toe, into the slipstream fighting going on behind, involving Yarshel as well. So there's lots of places to look at here. Coming down in towards turn number 1, that battle between Lerner and Coe isn't doing. But look at this dive from Price. No, he's made a complete mess of that.
I know your brakes are really good, Isaac, but they're not that good going into turn 1. There was always going to be contact the way he came flying into that corner. Yes, he's gained the position, but I have a funny feeling that the race stewards will take a very dim view of that move.
That was awful. You know, it's so easy to misjudge your braking into there. As, by the way, Yarshel and Krippner are still fighting side by side as they come through the little shortcut on towards the back end of the lap now. But yeah, That's not what we want to see there down in towards turn number 1, but you can forgive it sometimes, especially if you're using braking markers on the left side to try and make a move down there. Sometimes your view of the braking markers is actually blocked by cars that might sit there. So it's sometimes, you know, sometimes you can forgive the missing of the brakes, but that one seemed a little bit too blatant for me. As look at this from Yarshel, down the inside of the chicane over Wisniewski. Can't get the move done.
Well, now they're going from attack to defence once again. How many times have we seen that today? Out of the chicane, you go attacking into the chicane, then having to go defensive out of it. But everybody's staying where they are at the moment. Wisniewski will be spitting feathers in his cockpit right now. He will not be happy at getting caught up with Isaac Price. There's a little look again from Yarshel, but I'll go back to that Price contact down at turn 1. Yes, you don't have sight of your brake markers, but when you're going in that tight, you know that you have to go even slower. There's a car spun, I think. That's Payich. It is.
Payich, what has happened to the Porsche? The Mahler Racing Porsche. Down into P16 now. I have no idea what could have happened. I don't think anyone was even close to him, so this must have been a solo car incident. Unless we get any other news from the stewards. But my word, you know, this race seems to have more and more drama when we still have 6.5 minutes left to go. Of course, we do have, again, still a second between Siggy and Dornaden for the race lead. Here comes Wisniewski and Yarshel for P number 9. Yarshel again looking down the inside of the chicane. He goes late on the brakes on his fellow Bentley, and he's been able to slot in ahead. Brilliant move from Yarshel. And now can Krippner also capitalize on this one? Krippner's got one position, looking for the second as well, but now he still has to try and fight with Wisniewski through the final corner. It's stacking up everyone behind too.
But that's the problem. If you go that deep into the chicane and the defensive driver goes that deep as well, you're just opening the door for opportunities for other drivers on the exit of the chicane. As Price is unable to get past Hassa. Look at this mess, and I mean mess, going on round there and round the outside. That was the number 11. That's Nagy moving forward ahead of Krippner. So ever the opportunist. You take the scraps whenever they come present themselves, and that's exactly what Nagy has done there.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to take every single one of those opportunities, and he might have another one for Wisniewski here. He's following close within 1.5 tenths of a second. You would have believed it was a little bit less with how close he was following through the shortcut. We're coming up to 5 minutes to go now. A little bit fighting behind as well, involving the red line driver of Rietveld. Between, well, he's got Runinger all over his rear bumper at the moment, so everything still at such a boiling point at the moment towards the end of this race. I don't think we've even really gotten ourselves too much of a break from the action over the entire 40 minutes that we've had of the racing here today. And, well, through the NGK chicane, still no positions changing in that particular battle, but it can all change coming down that straight.
This has been a brilliant race. This is one of my favourite races of this season so far. It's been fantastic, and okay, we've been keeping the stewards busy, but well, they're there. We might as well use them. But yeah, absolutely brilliant racing so far, and so far 4.5 minutes just under. Kevin Siggy has been doing a very, very good job at the front of the field, controlling it while he can. And it's working out for him ever so nicely.
Yeah, there he is. Continuing to manage that gap back to Dornaden. It's only about a second. Well, it's been fluctuating up above a second and below a second, but as long as it's not getting any closer on average, I think Siggy will be fine with everything at the moment. Dornaden, I believe, is pushing, but it's seemingly like it's not going to be enough for the German to try and catch up to the Slovenian. As Siggy, oh, careful through the final corner. I thought he just made a little bit of a mistake, but it's fine. Everything's fine. But we've still got this one now. Price and Hassa.
But Price has now used up the best of those tyres, and he's now struggling to get past Florian. So it's almost worked out, has that strategy. Because remember, as I said, he was in 7th place before all the pit stops happened. He's got the slipstream right now of that Audi. You can see that gap just closing up gradually by minute bits at a time, then gets out of it going into turn 1. But Price, if he's to consider that, oh, now has he been told to give the position back?
No, penalty, 6 second slowdown. So he has to get offline and let Yarshel through. Whether or not his 6 seconds is enough to let Wisniewski through, let's have a look and see, because there is Wisniewski coming up towards Isaac Price at the moment. Price still trying to serve that slowdown penalty, and yes, it is enough to let Wisniewski by. How many more positions does Price lose, though? Oh, contact with Hagi in through the shortcut, and well, now leaning on Krippner too.
Well, it goes from bad to worse for Isaac. And, well, he's got the Fordzilla car coming through, Fiducci, and he just cannot get rid of that. He cannot get himself back into line. He's now got himself sorted in line, and he's got to just calm himself down, focus forward. Don't get involved in any more incidents, Isaac. Just do what you need to do and move forward. The red line car of Rietveld is there as well. Oh, this is all... and Page! Look at Page trying to make his way through.
Yeah, just look at that. It's brilliant action indeed. Look at this, though, as Brzezinski's looking to the inside on Lona. All of a sudden, this is for battle for P5. Crucial points for Lona to maintain his advantage in the championship. But Brzezinski certainly giving him a good run for his money.
Certainly is. Doing a good job is Jacob as they go through the Mercedes Arena section. I don't think there's going to be any doubt as to what lap the final lap will be, because it'll be the next lap. It's enough time still on the clock for them to make it to the end of this lap and start the final one. So Kevin Siggy, he's just counting down the corners and the straights and all of that tarmac, that asphalt in front of him, to just count down to when he can get his hands on the winner's trophy. But Lerner under pressure. There's Siggy up at the front, 1.1 seconds. He's doing everything that he needs to do and doing it well.
Yep, he is. So he'll come across the line to start the final lap then. One more lap for this battle for P5 as well between Moritz Lerner and Brzezinski. Brzezinski has been, well, he's gotten himself a bit of a second wind here late on in this race. He's been able to cause Moritz Lerner a good couple of problems. Let's ride on board with him as he heads his way across the start-finish line. Don't think he's going to be quite close enough for a move into turn 1, but you know, we have seen lunges from this far back, and it looks like Brzezinski's been thinking about it, but he's caught in two minds. Now he has to go to the outside and slide through the corner, and I think that's his chances done.
That was thinking you could go for a move, then realising, oh, that's not going to work, and just bailing out of it. Did the right thing there, because he would have made contact otherwise. So, yeah, well done, Kevin, for sticking the landing there, so to speak. But, yeah, definitely, Kevin, Jacob, as they go through there. But yeah, he did the right thing, just jumping out the way and avoiding any contact with Moritz in front.
Yep, so that's simply what he had to do. Meanwhile, fighting a little bit deeper in the pack, P14 under threat as far as Rietveld is concerned, as Page on the recovery drive all over the back of him in this final lap. Page getting some good speed off the corner, but there's nowhere he can go with it. Just gives a bit of a love tap to the back of that Team Redline car, but we do have to focus on another Team Redline car, because it is Kevin Siggy coming out of the final corner to pick up the race win here in the endurance race of round number 4 of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship at the Nürburgring. Siggy, with reverse grid pole position, converts it into a win. Let's have a look back at the battle for P14 though, because Rietveld just about holding on to the position over Marco Page. Page will get some speed off the corner here, but it's not enough to be able to drag race that BMW with his Porsche all the way to the line. But that was a crazy, crazy event. Of course, not for P1. Siggy had that on lockdown all day, but everything else further back, I think everyone has to take a bow.
That was tremendous. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that race. That was a tremendous race, and plenty of drama, excitement. But Kevin Siggy, he must be absolutely delighted to be able to convert that reverse grid pole position to a race win.
Here's a look at your finishing results then. Of course, pending still to review, it is Kevin Siggy winning here the endurance race at the Nürburgring for round number 4 of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Alexander Dornaden P2 with Jack Keithley in 3rd with a podium for the Brit. Fantastic stuff. As Ben Spunky in 4th. Moritz Lohner with a good recovery after that lap 1 incident up into P5 today in the endurance race. Another haul of points going his ways. Brzezinski in 6th, Hasse in 7th. Yarshel in 8th place here today with Wisniewski and Nagy rounding out the top 10 in this particular order. Of course, you got the rest of the field now cycling themselves all the way through. Yayovsky not having a good day whatsoever. But again, like you said, we do have to praise Kevin Siggy there. It's not easy to get that reverse grip pole position and hold on to the race lead throughout the entirety of the race. You know, usually we see reverse grip pole position sitters just sort of they have a good first couple of laps and then the cars start passing them, especially in the pit strategy. But that's not what happened to Siggy. He just focused on the task ahead, did it very well, and well, let the others behind fight for it.
Be good if I switch my microphone on. Yeah, he did a fantastic job up at the front there and showed great composure. As I said, he was coming under pressure coming into that pit stop cycle. You know, the second place car was getting closer, but held on to it, kept his mind sharp, kept calm under pressure, did everything right. That's all you can ask, and that's pretty much perfectly what he would have wanted today in that endurance race. Brilliant result for Kevin.
Yeah, brilliant indeed. Well recovery from Moritz Lohner as well after a horrifying start, getting involved in that lap 1 incident. We didn't see exactly what happened to him, but he was slowed up quite considerably. He lost a couple of positions as a result. Down in, I think you mentioned at the time, down to around P20, but he was able to get back up into P5. That is an incredible drive from our defending champion.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect from Moritz, especially beforehand he was saying about how confident he was coming into this round. Good recovery drive, was able to keep it on the track and keep calm and not get involved in any other silly little incidents. And again, worked that strategy well. Obviously, his strategy had to maybe change up, although I doubt it. He probably would have kept it a similar strategy as to what he had planned beforehand. So yeah, really good job from Moritz.
Yeah, incredible job indeed. And of course, you know, we saw battles up and down the field here today. We saw incredible battles for mid-pack positions, in particular, you know, Rietveld, Price getting themselves involved. But Price, I kind of feel the most for, because he was looking so good on those fresher tyres, continuing to make up those positions. But then he just had a bit of I don't know what it was, but maybe a bit of lapse in concentration, a bit of a silly moment with the brakes into T1.
It is difficult because, of course, he was battling with the car in front of him, but the car in front of him can't see Isaac is going to be making a move. So when he's turned in to hit his apex, and all of a sudden there's an Isaac Price there, and bang, straight into it. It was an obvious penalty. It's a mistake. There's no maliciousness in that one. It was just a consequence of what happens down there at turn 1. I've seen that incident happen time and again in racing, certainly in real life racing and in sim racing as well. So it's nothing new to happen down there, but the correct decision by the stewards, though, to give that penalty to Isaac.
Yeah, I think absolutely you had to give a penalty, but you know, whether or not it was going to be an incredibly harsh one was a different issue. 6-second slowdown penalty, I think, is probably enough for the type of incident that he had, especially with how many positions that he lost as a result of that penalty. But you know, in terms of the championship picture coming into the next rounds now, of course, it's at the end of this month. The next rounds that we'll be heading towards with round number 5. That will be at the Lausitzring. So another interesting track to head to for a couple of weeks' time. But Lohner is going to be still in a very, very strong position here in the GT3 standings. You know, he had that buffer back to Brzezinski coming into this anyway. And that's something he can eat into if he has a couple of bad races. So it's still a very strong position for Lohner to be in. Siggy, his main concern is that battle for P2 now with himself and Brzezinski, and with a result like that in the endurance race, surely his hopes have been given a bit of a boost.
Yeah, but it was that sprint race where he finished 10th place, though, that didn't help matters. It swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it, with how it goes with these reverse grid races. I mean, we saw it last season with Moritz just playing the consistency game and ended up winning him a championship. So it's all about getting good points in each and every one of these rounds. And as we get later and later into the season, the further back you are, the more imperative it is for you to get a really big week of points and look at potentially getting a podium finish in both races.
Yeah, that's the main objective that a lot of drivers are going for. You know, that's the sweet spot in terms of the points scored across the two races in any race, in any event this season. Of course, you have the double header at the very end of the season, which we'll talk about closer to the time. But you know, we're currently waiting for any drivers to see if they want to have a little bit of a talk to us, or whether they just want to go and hide away and not talk and want to celebrate or just drown their sorrows. But at this point, you know, the series once again has shown what it's made of. You know, GT4s were amazing. This race in GT3s were absolutely incredible. But with next time, in a couple of weeks' time, we head to the Lausitzring, and I'm aware of the fact that you haven't commentated a race at the Lausitzring before, and I don't think I have, unless it was on the calendar for last season. I don't think I also either commentated a race here as well, so that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, that's going to be digging out the research books, getting online as well, looking at videotape, and getting as much information as we can going into this next round to see what the racing is like round there. But, you know, it's definitely... It's going to be interesting to see how drivers now attack this final part of the season. Because, of course, as we say, we've got 3 rounds of the championship left coming up here. Results matter. If you're Moritz Lerner now, you can play the game that you played last season and just get consistent scoring points. Get consistent top 5s. You're in a really, really good position right now. The others, they need those podiums in both the sprints and the feature race to have any chance of trying to catch up to Moritz in all of this. So, yeah. This championship, it's not dead yet. Moritz hasn't got the title yet. One bad round. I mean, we nearly saw it here today in this second race, this endurance race. All it takes is one bad round, and everybody else catches up.
Yeah, it really does. A DNF in sprint race, and then a not too good main race. That's all it needs for Brzezinski, for Siggy to come right back in terms of the championship picture. So Moritz Lerner still needs to be consistent, and that's probably his most defining trait. He is a very, very consistent driver, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a worry coming into the final couple of rounds, but it's something to keep in mind for sure. So with that, actually, we do get ourselves the chance to speak to a driver here. We'll actually bring in Mr. Ben Spanky, and Paul, you're going to be standing by with Spanky.
Yeah, certainly a driver who's impressed me so far this season. Bence, I mean, what can we say about this round? It was dramatic. It was exciting for us in the commentary box. How was it for you out there on track? As we hopefully can get some words from him. Can you copy us? Can you hear it? Oh, apparently not, it seems.
Didn't we have this last time?
Him. I'm sure we did. And it's always when it's me. They don't want to talk to me, Connery. They're like you, it seems.
I'm not sure why that could be, but yeah, we'll just hang around for a little longer to see if Ben Spanky does actually want to join us here in this one. If he can get his microphone fixed and everything absolutely fine, I'll have a look and pay attention to the chat as well to make sure that if they're trying to say anything to us. But yeah, it's I mean, what could you say at the very end of that event? You know, it's the Nürburgring certainly delivered. Next couple of weeks, like I said, we head to the Lausitzring, which I would say the
it's
most
a different style of track.
Yeah, it's kind of, sorry to interrupt, but it's kind of the it's basically a roval, right? Because it is a three-cornered oval, just like Pocono, if you're familiar with your American NASCAR and IndyCar racing. So it is raced just that little bit differently. Very flat, not much elevation change whatsoever. It reminds me of Rockingham here in the UK.
Oh, rest in peace, Rockingham. Yeah, we no longer get to use that venue, but it's that mix, isn't it? You want the top speed for when you get onto the oval section of the circuit, but you also need the stability and the grip and downforce when you're going through that infield section, through the more technical section of the track. So it is going to be a challenge setting up those cars, and it's whether we see that Bentley really coming through, because that Bentley's top speed does seem to be what gives it that little bit of an edge at quite a lot of venues. But that Porsche, with Moritz Lerner and with Page as well, they do a very good job hustling that Porsche around.
Yeah, they do an incredible job, and given that we don't need to see any more signs of Bauke attempting to reconnect and talk to us here, unfortunately, we do have to end it there. But of course, we had a fantastic event here at the Nürburgring, but we look to a couple of weeks' time. To be exact, it will be the 31st of the current month, 31st of August. We head to the Lausitzring for round number 5 of the championship. Just 3 rounds to go of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship before we can crown a champion. I've been Conor Pneumatic. I've been joined by the one, the only Mr. Paul Smith for this one, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time where we head to the Roval. Bye-bye.